Chapter 322. Enlightened Wang Hua placed the mystic wood shield in front of him. Suddenly, a layer of earth energy appeared around him. It was enlightened Wang Hua's defensive technique, Silua Wall. The defensive technique and the mystic wood shield worked together to block the golden scale sword's continuous attacks. However, enlightened Wang Hua's mystic wood shield kept trembling. It didn't dare to let the thousand sword rays land on the same spot. Even so, Lu Ping's sword still pushed enlightened Wang Hua back by 100 feet. His defensive technique was on the verge of breaking. Enlightened Master Wang Hua broke out in cold sweat from Lu Ping's attack. The mystic wood shield shrunk to the size of a palm and fell into enlightened Master Wang Hua's hand. The shield was riddled with holes, all caused by Lu Ping's attack. Enlightened Wang Hua looked at his magic treasure and felt his heart ache. Even Luan Yu's wood flame didn't cause this much damage to the mystic wood shield. After he returned, he didn't know how long it would take for him to restore the mystic wood shield to its original power. The golden scale sword, which had already condensed its second seal, spun in the sky and was held by a pair of hands. A young cultivator in his 20s stood on a white cloud and slowly descended towards enlightened Wang Hua. Who else could it be but Lu Ping? Just when Lu Ping destroyed the sound transmission sword released by enlightened Wang Hua, another sound transmission sword flew a few miles to the east and inexplicably disappeared from the sea. Standing on the white cloud, Lu Ping looked to the east. A cold light flashed in his eyes. The corner of Lu Ping's mouth curled up, revealing a mocking smile. "It's you!" How could enlightened Wang Hua not know Lu Ping? Not only did he defeat the Zhang and Wang clans' pill refiners at the Northern Alliance pill gathering, but he also defeated the blood condensation pill refiners of the other three sections. "I've long heard that alchemy master Lu Jiu's alchemy skills are brilliant, but I didn't expect your swordsmanship to be so sharp as well. You've cultivated the sword into complexity, and your sword light has reached the great completion of psychic sword. As long as you combine the psychic sword light into one, and achieve the realm of cultivation and sword as one, the attack power of your swordsmanship will not be any weaker than ordinary supernatural power." Lu Ping smiled and said, "You flatter me, perfected Wang Hua. You've become an alchemy grandmaster after advancing to the core forging stage. Master Lu, why are you making things difficult for the Wang clan this time?" When Taoist Wang Hua saw Lu Ping, he knew that this matter would not end well. It was not just because of Lu Ping's identity as an alchemist. After advancing to the core forging stage, it was no longer a secret that Lu Ping had become an alchemist master. But what really made Taoist Wang Hua afraid was that when Master Lu appeared at the trade fair in Skyrend, he was accompanied by a late core forging stage cultivator. If the Crystal Palace did not stand up for a late core forging stage cultivator, the Wang clan would not offend him in any case. Didn't the owner of the Red Eagle Island say that when we establish our own sect, we must have a foundation? The Wang clan is a big family. Why do you need to fight with us, a rogue cultivator, for this small territory? Taoist Wang Hua would not waste his breath on this matter with Lu Ping. Instead, he said, "I'm afraid that both the Zhang and Li clans are involved in today's matter. Otherwise, you wouldn't have coincidentally stopped me here." Lu Ping secretly praised these monsters who had lived for hundreds of years. Each of them was smart, and could figure out the cause and effect of the matter with a little thought. But Lu Ping would not be so stupid as to admit these things directly. Some things were like this. It was enough for everyone to know, but it could not be said in the open. Taoist Wang Hua saw that Lu Ping smiled and did not say anything. He knew that today's matter would not end until one of them died, so he sneered and said, "If the Zhang and Li clans did not intervene, do you have the confidence to keep me here? I admit that your Excellency's swordsmanship is excellent, but you are only at the second level of the core forging stage. I don't care." This was the reason why Lu Ping refused the help of the boudoir. If an external force intervened in the dispute with the Wang clan, the Crystal Palace would naturally have an excuse to intervene. At that time, the Northern Alliance would not be able to say anything, and the force that Lu Ping managed would become the vanguard, or cannon fodder, used by the boudoir, to fight against the Crystal Palace. In this way, in order to preserve his force under the oppression of the Crystal Palace, Lu Ping could not do without the help of the boudoir. In this case, Lu Ping's force would eventually be manipulated by the boudoir and become a wedding dress. However, Lu Ping completed the expulsion of the Wang clan from the fallen secret land by himself, which was following the rules of the rise and fall of the forces under the jurisdiction of the Northern Alliance. Not only did the Crystal Palace have no excuse to intervene in the affairs of the Northern Alliance, but the Northern Alliance also hoped to use Lu Ping to erase the pawn of the Crystal Palace in the Northern Alliance, or to weaken its role. Even if the Crystal Palace wanted to deal with Lu Ping, the Northern Alliance had to protect him out of righteousness. Otherwise, the rules made by the Northern Alliance would be ineffective, and they would not be able to restrain other forces. However, the foundation of all this was that Lu Ping could really expel the Wang clan from the fallen secret land with his own efforts. Looking at the arrogant Wang Hua, Lu Ping said with a smile, "How can you know if you don't try?" "What?" Taoist Wang Hua couldn't believe his ears. "Do you really think you can keep me here? You're just a small cultivator who has advanced to the core forging stage for less than 5 years? What a joke! Well, today I will show you the real power of a cultivator who has smelted the spirit objects of heaven and earth. Forest of myriad trees!" The mystic wood shield rose slowly and suddenly disappeared in the air. Beams of cyan light fell from the sky. When Qi Lianying and the others were surprised, they heard Lu Ping say seriously, "Watch out!" The golden scale sword produced 5 beams of sword light in a row and scattered to the sea under their feet. At this moment, countless seaweeds emerged from the bottom of the sea and entangled under their feet. The golden scale sword slashed horizontally and cut the seaweeds that emerged. However, this was just the beginning. When the golden scale sword flashed, more and more seaweeds emerged from the bottom of the sea and entangled the people. Qi Lianying and the others quickly dodged, only to find that their bodies seemed to have been restricted. The mystic wood shields around them, which had transformed into cyan light, were like walls, isolating them within a certain space. Left with no choice, they had no choice but to use their own means to block the seaweed that was swarming toward them. Although it was easy to block the seaweeds, they seemed to be endless. When they destroyed a wave of seaweeds, more seaweeds emerged from the sea. Wang Hua's complacent laughter could be heard. "You can't even resist one of my magical powers, and you still want to keep me here? What a joke! Maybe I'll leave all of you here to feed the fishes." Wang Hua slapped the mystic wood ruler in his hand and shouted, "Go!" Qi Lianying's facial expression changed abruptly when the dark wooden ruler disappeared into the water. He waved his sleeves in front of him and formed a wall of sleeves. Along with a muffled sound, a huge piece of wood darted out from the swarming seaweed and smashed heavily on Qi Lianying's wall of sleeves. Although Qi Lianying blocked the sudden attack of the huge piece of wood, his face turned pale. Obviously, this was an attack formed by the mystic wood ruler. Qi Lianying obviously could not resist Wang Hua's attack alone. Bang! Another muffled sound was heard. The pestle in Hong Ying's hand was knocked away by the huge piece of wood formed by the mystic wood ruler. Hong Ying spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face turned golden purple. This attack had shaken Hong Ying's newly condensed gold core. When Lu Ping saw that Hong Ying was seriously injured and his foundation was shaken, his expression immediately changed. A green light flickered in his eyes and penetrated the bottom of the sea. Then, as if he had seen something, the green light in his eyes disappeared and returned to normal. Lu Ping coldly snorted. The golden scale sword moved freely in the air and slapped away the huge piece of wood that was attacking Qiao Weiying. Then, he drew a circle in the air and 1296 psychic sword lights flew out from the circle. The golden scale sword was the first to be erected, and the rest of the sword lights followed suit. A single-horned sword dragon suddenly formed in the sky, shaking its head and tail in the air. It was very lifelike. Lu Ping pointed to the bottom of the sea. The single-horned sword dragon opened its mouth and let out a long roar, then plunged into the sea. As the sword dragon plunged into the bottom of the sea water immediately became turbulent. The seaweed that had extended out of the sea all retreated back to the bottom of the sea and wrapped around the sword dragon. In an instant, the sea was covered in a thick layer of broken branches and leaves. At that moment, the calm perfected Wang Hua's expression changed. He suddenly heard a clanging sound from the bottom of the sea. The sword serpent that had broken through the entanglement of seaweed easily found the mystic wood ruler's body and directly attacked it. Wang Hua's hand formed a few seals and the mystic wood ruler broke out of the water. The protective light around his body had been torn apart by the sword dragon. Wang Hua's heart ached, but he didn't have time to repair it. He saw a one-horned sword dragon that had lost its tail and more than a dozen sword scales rush out of the sea and collide with the mystic wood ruler again. Wang Hua didn't have time to take back the mystic wood ruler and quickly shouted, "Split!" The mystic wood ruler transformed into 18 huge logs in a row, smashing towards the sword dragon's head. However, the sword dragon's body suddenly disintegrated, turning back into the psychic sword light. Hundreds of sword lights that had been shattered by the mystic wood ruler separated from the golden scale sword again. Then, with the golden scale sword as the main body, the 1,296 psychic sword lights attached to the golden scale sword one after another. The golden scale sword suddenly transformed into a giant sword that was 999 feet wide in the sky. Wang Hua cried out, "Sword as one! Sword spell, how is this possible?" Zhang Feng and Li Maoan, who were a few miles away, looked at each other again. They could see the fear in each other's eyes. Wang Hua quickly took back the mystic wood ruler, but it was too late. Under the giant sword's horizontal slash, the 18 giant pieces of wood were all broken. The mystic wood ruler let out a mournful cry. There was already a big gap on the ruler's body. Without years of nourishment and precious spirit materials to repair it, it would be difficult to recover. Chapter 323. In the cultivation world, there was no such thing as a little divine power. In the eyes of the older cultivators, divine power was a powerful and mysterious spell created by a cultivator relying on his own cultivation, spells, wisdom, realm, comprehension, and all other factors. This kind of spell originated from the cultivator himself, and did not rely on external forces. When cultivators found out that they could also cultivate some spells that were not as powerful as divine power, but were not as difficult to cultivate as divine power, they called these spells that relied on external forces as little divine power, and those that truly relied on oneself were called great divine power. However, in the recent 100 years of cultivation, little divine power was no longer limited to using external forces to cultivate this special method. More and more cultivators called some concept spells that were similar in power to little divine power as little divine power, just like the unity of sword and practice. In swordsmanship, the unity of man and nature. In spells, and so on. True essence one breath sword technique. This was a kind of sword technique that could only be used to the greatest extent when one reached unity of sword and practice. When Lu Ping controlled the golden scale sword and combined it with the 1296 psychic sword chi, not only was Wang Hua shocked, even Zhang Feng and Li Maoan, who were hiding a few miles away to watch the show, were indescribably shocked. This was the highest achievement that could be achieved in swordsmanship in concept. The unity of sword and practice realm, which was often called the little divine power of swordsmanship, actually appeared on a second-level core forging cultivator. Even in the number 1 sword cultivator sect of EC, Skyrend, how many cultivators of the same level could achieve such an achievement? Unity of sword and practice was only one step away from achieving great divine power of swordsmanship. In the cultivation world, how many people could achieve great divine power in the core forging stage? And every core forging stage cultivator who achieved great divine power, which one of them was not famous and even became an ancestor in the future? Sword cultivators were famous in the cultivation world for their tyrannical attacks. Among the cultivators of the same level, sword cultivators might not be the strongest, but their destructive power was definitely the first. This was also the biggest reason why Skyren became one of the 5 great sects of EC, and even the Crystal Palace did not want to provoke them. Lu Ping's sword was unexpected. Wang Hua never thought that the cultivator in front of him, who was famous for his alchemy, would have such achievements in swordsmanship. Under the attack of Lu Ping's true essence one sword strike, the mystic wood ruler's myriad woods forest was instantly disintegrated. Even the mystic wood ruler's body was heavily injured. Lu Ping swung the golden scale sword horizontally, intending to slash apart the mystic wood shield's green light that imprisoned Qi Lianying and the others. Perfected Wang Hua was shocked. He did not care about the Dharma treasure in his hand and waved his hand. The green light that filled the sky immediately condensed and formed the mystic wood shield again. Just as the green light that imprisoned everyone disappeared, Luan Yu's wood fire immediately followed. When resisting Wang Hua's myriad wood forest, Luan Yu, who had the wood fire, had the easiest time. However, among the 3 fire seeds needed by Luan Yu's wood fire, one of them was not a natural oddity. Although the other 2 fire seeds were natural oddities, they were not very powerful. Therefore, in the face of Wang Hua's wood fire, whose cultivation was much higher than his, Luan Yu's wood fire could only protect himself, but could not break Wang Hua's myriad wood forest. However, after Lu Ping broke Wang Hua's wood forest, Luan Yu was the first to recover and attack Wang Hua. At this time, Wang Hua's mind was shaken because his natal magic treasure was severely damaged, and his genuine essence was in turmoil. When Luan Yu's wood fire came, Wang Hua had no choice but to use the mysterious wood shield again to block the wood fire. Before Taoist Wang Hua could activate his true essence to shake off Luan Yu's wood fire, Xiao Weiying suddenly appeared behind Taoist Wang Hua and stabbed 2 daggers behind him. A layer of emerald green light appeared, and Wang Hua once again activated the protective small divine power, Silua Wall, to block Xiao Weiying's 2 magic daggers. Just as Taoist Wang Hua resisted Xiao Weiying's surprise attack and calmed down the turbulent qi in his body, his face suddenly changed. He saw that the light green protective magical power that was originally made by Xiao Weiying's 2 daggers was torn apart. Taoist Wang Hua instinctively felt that something was wrong. The escape light under his feet flashed, and he wanted to leave. However, he was still a step too late. Blood splattered, and there was a half-foot-long wound on Taoist Wang Hua's waist. A blue sword shadow flashed and disappeared. Invisible swordsmanship? Wang Hua looked at Lu Ping not far away in surprise. Not only Wang Hua, but Zhang Feng and Li Maolan also looked solemn. Lu Ping had shocked them too much. Lu Ping shook his head regretfully. The Waterseer's sword was only a top-grade magic weapon after all. Although it was strengthened by the invisible water and the invisible sword technique, as well as Lu Ping's swordsmanship attainments, the power of the Waterseer's sword was doubled, and it injured Wang Hua in one blow. However, if the Waterseer's sword was a magic flying sword, Lu Ping was sure that he could injure Wang Hua seriously. Unfortunately, the Waterseer's sword was only an ordinary top-grade magic weapon. If he wanted to have the foundation to advance to a magic weapon, Lu Ping would have to find some second-class water attribute spiritual materials and above to reforge it. Good. I didn't think that you puny cultivators would actually be able to force me to such a state. No wonder you dared to ambush me on my way here. I have indeed underestimated you. But if you think that you can make me stay here like this, you're still far from it. Wang Hua casually stopped the wound on his waist, and at the same time resisted the attacks of Lu Ping, Xiao Weiying, and Luan Yu. He looked at Lu Ping and the others with a ruthless expression. Han Ying had been seriously injured by Wang Hua's forest of 10,000 trees, and his foundation was almost shaken. If it were not for the healing elixirs refined by Yu Jiangrui and Lu Ping, his cultivation would have been reduced to the core forging stage. Although Qi Lianying was not weaker than Han Ying, he was also seriously injured by that attack, and he was forced to retreat from the fighting range with Han Ying. Lu Ping, Luan Yu, and Xiao Weiying surrounded Wang Hua and fought. Wang Hua was confident that he had a high cultivation base, so he was not afraid of a battle of attrition. However, Wang Hua saw Qiao Weiying take out a white jade-like elixir and swallow it, and a moment later, Luan Yu did the same. Only Lu Ping's genuine essence was so strong that he was not afraid of consuming his genuine essence even after using a powerful sword technique like the Genuine Essence One Sword Qi. Wang Hua suddenly remembered that Lu Ping was an alchemy grandmaster. In such a life-and-death battle, how could his opponents not have elixirs that could restore genuine essence? Wang Hua suddenly felt disgusted, as if he had swallowed a fly. Although he also had 1 or 2 elixirs that could restore genuine essence, those were used to save his life. He was not like the 3 people in front of him, who were determined to use these precious elixirs to fight a battle of attrition. In fact, Wang Hua did not know that Lu Ping was not the only alchemy grandmaster in front of him. When Luan Yu was in the blood condensation realm, his alchemy skills were even better than Lu Ping's. After advancing to the core forging realm, he naturally became an alchemy grandmaster as well. However, after advancing to the core forging realm, Luan Yu changed his appearance and looked very different from the long-necked youth. Wang Hua did not recognize him. The more Wang Hua fought, the more worried he became. If this continued, the one who would be exhausted would be himself, a mid-stage core forging realm cultivator. He did not know where Lu Jiu found these cultivators. They were only at the first level of the core forging realm, but except for Honging, the other 3 were far stronger than cultivators of the same level. Lu Jiu was even more monstrous. Most of his attacks were blocked by him, and his true strength seemed to be able to compete with him. How was this possible? Wang Hua did not want to believe it. However, his intuition clearly told him that Lu Jiu had not even used his full strength. He still had some tricks up his sleeves. Since he was afraid, he decided to leave. Well, since I can't do anything to you minor repairs today, I will leave first. In the future, when the 3 mid-stage core forging realm masters of the Wang family gather, we will definitely wipe you all out. There was also the Zhang family, and the Li family. These 2 families would definitely be involved in today's matter. The Crystal Palace might not be able to directly intervene because of the Northern Alliance, but the Crystal Palace had many ways to punish small families like the Zhang family and the Li family. Wang Hua made up his mind. The mystic wood shield suddenly expanded, covering him firmly. He rushed straight towards Qiao Weiying. The mystic wood ruler attacked 3 times in a row at Lu Ping and the other 2 people. Qiao Weiying was forced to retreat again and again. Lu Ping and Luan Yu hurried forward to resist together. At this moment, Wang Hua suddenly retreated. The conveyance light flashed under his feet and he was about to escape. Not good, he wants to escape! Qiao Weiying did not dodge perfected Wang Hua's attack. She swung her hands and the 2 daggers flew out of her hands. They drew a semicircle in the air and blocked perfected Wang Hua's path of retreat. Qiao Weiying's protective upstanding qi had not become a small supernatural power yet. She was seriously injured by Wang Hua's attack and vomited blood. The 2 daggers were also knocked away by the mystic wood shield, but she still managed to block Wang Hua. At this moment, 2 crystal-clear jade bracelets suddenly flew out of Lu Ping's hands. The 2 jade bracelets caught up with Wang Hua's flying figure in the air, then they quickly expanded and flew towards Wang Hua. Wang Hua placed the mystic wood shield on top of his head and the mystic wood ruler down. A sea forest quickly appeared. Wang Hua flashed and disappeared in the forest. Lu Ping stretched out his hand and pointed. One of the jade bracelets grew again and covered the whole forest. A black flame suddenly wrapped the jade bracelets. The whole forest was suddenly surrounded by a sea of fire and turned into ashes. This is black prison poisonous fire? Luan Yu recognized this kind of flame at a glance. She did not care about showing her envy. Suddenly, a green light lit up in the sea of fire and rushed out of the forest to escape. Lu Ping sneered and the other jade ring clanged loudly. An ice wall suddenly appeared in front of him. The green light smashed through the ice wall, but its surface was covered in a layer of ice, so it had no choice but to slow down. The fire ring caught up with it again, and the raging poisonous fire encircled the green light. The green light suddenly expanded and the layer of ice armor wrapped around the green light cracked. the flying speed increased again. However, Lu Ping did not give it a chance. The ice ring had already appeared under the green light. The cold ice climbed up, and the poisonous fire spewed down. The two suddenly met, and there was a loud bang all around. The green escape light was finally broken by the poisonous fire and cold ice. Perfected Wang Hua staggered out, and the ring of ice and fire shrank rapidly, and wrapped around perfected Wang Hua. Chapter 324. Taoist Wang Hua's expression changed dramatically. He held the profound wood shield above his head while the profound wood ruler struck at the jade bracelet. A dark blue sword silhouette appeared once again and knocked the profound wood ruler away. However, the water nether sword itself trembled slightly. The profound wood ruler was a magic treasure that had condensed 3 restrictions, after all. Even though the water nether sword had caught it off guard, cracks still appeared on its body. The ice and fire bracelets took the opportunity to fall, trapping Taoist Wang Hua in the middle. Taoist Wang Hua's expression changed again. The blue light from the profound wood shield suddenly intensified, blocking the ice and fire bracelets. Taoist Wang Hua had underestimated the power of the ice and fire bracelets. Each ice and fire bracelets only had 1 treasure restriction, but when they were combined, their power was no less than that of a magic treasure with 3 treasure restrictions. Moreover, in order to fully display the power of the ice and fire bracelets, Lu Ping had condensed 2 heaven and earth mysterious treasures, the dark prison poisonous fire and the true ice water, into the ice and fire bracelets, increasing their power. The ice and fire bracelets tightened and the green light from the profound wood bracelets resisted. With a creaking sound, the two were in a deadlock. Even if the ice and fire bracelets had a magical effect, how could Lu Jiu's true essence compete with Taoist Wang Hua's cultivation of the 4th stage of core forging? However, in reality, Lu Ping was in a deadlock with Taoist Wang Hua. How could Taoist Wang Hua believe this? Now, enlightened Master Wang Hua finally believed that Lu Ping and the others weren't daydreaming when they ambushed a cultivator whose cultivation base far surpassed theirs. They really did have the strength to do so. Taoist Wang Hua finally panicked. Taoist Wang Hua spat out a mouthful of blood. At the same time, he quickly made a few hand signs. The profound wood shield that was bound finally shone with a green light, and slowly opened the ice and fire bracelets. However, Lu Ping didn't panic. He formed a different hand seal with each hand and the ice and fire bracelets ignited with black flames while the ice and fire bracelets emitted a misty white aura. The ice and fire bracelets blocked the expansion of the azure light. Taoist Wang Hua suddenly felt a burst of heat directly burning the blue light of the mysterious wood shield into nothingness. His own Jinyuan seemed to have directly become the fuel for the dark prison poison fire. At the same time, a feeling of weakness and aging directly acted on his body through his Jinyuan. Not good, this black flame is poisonous. Perfected Wang Hua was shocked. The true essence in his body surged, trying to expel the true essence that was affected by the dark prison poisonous fire. However, what made Perfected Wang Hua despair again was that a cold air penetrated his lungs. The true essence in his body seemed to be frozen at this moment. No matter how Perfected Wang Hua urged it, the true essence was like an exhausted old man, moving like a snail. In just a moment, in front of Wang Hua's desperate eyes, the hell-fire poison penetrated the core space along with the true essence in Wang Hua's body, while the true ice water froze Wang Hua into an ice block from the outside to the inside. The blue light of the mysterious wood shield was broken by the ice and fire bracelets, and then Perfected Wang Hua's body was also frozen by the bracelets. A golden pill with 4 runes on its surface sprang out of the ice. Before it could fly more than 10 feet away, a huge sailor suddenly rose from the sea and grabbed the golden pill. Lu Ping's divine sense was like a torrent, instantly rushing into the golden pill and destroying Perfected Wang Hua's divine sense contained in the golden pill. Cultivators in the core forging stage began to fuse their divine sense into the golden pill. The golden pill was the condensation of the cultivator's cultivation essence. Therefore, the golden pill could be said to be the cultivator's second life. If the cultivator's body was destroyed, the cultivator could even use the golden pill and the divine sense contained in it to reincarnate. This method was called possession in the cultivation world. However, the golden pill could not fuse all the cultivator's divine sense into it. Therefore, there were always various shackles in the possession of the golden pill. Not only was it extremely difficult to succeed, but even if it succeeded, it was almost impossible for the cultivator to achieve anything after the possession unless the cultivator could go further and fuse all the divine sense into the golden pill. Because the divine sense was the final fusion of the cultivator's cultivation and divine sense, the divine sense even had the magical power to exist without the body. Lu Ping reached out and retrieved a storage bracelet from the ice shards. Then, he picked up the broken wooden shield and the mystic wood ruler that was floating on the surface of the sea. He turned around and looked at Guan Yu and Xiao Weiing behind him. Both of them were dumbfounded. Lu Ping smiled and said, "Let's go. Wang Hua is dead. The Wang family's forces in the fallen secret land are no longer a threat. However, we still need to plan for a while. After all, the Wang family's strength is still there. We still need to guard against their counterattack. Sangling Island should have been conquered by now. There is a small spirit vein there that is suitable for everyone to recuperate and cultivate." Guan Yu and the others nodded and flew towards Sangling Island with the injured Hong Ying and Qi Lianying. Lu Ping turned around and cupped his hands towards the sky above the sea in the east, then turned around and left. A moment later, two middle-aged cultivators suddenly appeared in the sky above the sea in the east. They were Zhang Feng and Li Maolin, the two enlightened masters who had been hiding. "He already knew that we were waiting?" Zhang Feng asked in surprise. Li Maolin smiled bitterly and said, "I'm afraid so." Zhang Feng lowered his head and pondered for a moment, then said, "Brother Li, you have just advanced to the mid-core forging realm. If Brother Li encountered Wang Hua today, what are your chances of winning?" Li Maolin was taken aback. He pondered for a moment, then shook his head and smiled bitterly. "I'm afraid there is only a slim chance of survival, unless I escape when Lu Jiu appears." Zhang Feng looked at Li Maolin in a daze. Li Maolin's face was calm, without the slightest embarrassment. After a while, Zhang Feng said, "Brother Li is straightforward, but I don't know if Brother Li has noticed." "What?" Li Maolin was confused when he saw that Zhang Feng was keeping him in suspense. Life-bound magic treasure or life-bound magic treasure. Although alchemist Lu Jiu used 3 magic treasures, 1 sword, 2 rings, and an invisible flying sword, they are not his life-bound magic treasures. How can a second-layer core forging cultivator not have a life-bound magic treasure? But he didn't use it. What does this mean? This time, it was Li Maolin's turn to be stunned. After a long time, Li Maolin took a deep breath and said, "I'm afraid the Wang clan won't be able to gain any advantage this time." The battle on Sungling Island was nearing its end. Under the surprise attack of more than 100 cultivators from Hearing Waves Island, the Wang clan, without the protection of the island's protective array and the core forging realm enlightened masters, suffered heavy casualties. Out of the 50 to 60 Wang clan cultivators on Sungling Island, only 40 to 50 corpses remained. Some of them even fled towards the depths of the fallen secret land. Lu Ping returned to Sungling Island first. On the island, inside enlightened Master Wang Hua's cave abode, the Samling hid in the shadows. When Lu Ping entered the cave abode, he saw the corpses of 9 Wang clan cultivators lying on the ground. These cultivators were all in the late blood condensation realm. Clearly, they were the Wang clan's elite disciples. When they sensed that the island's protective array had been destroyed, they immediately came to investigate, and were ambushed by the Samling. The Samling were now at the peak of the blood condensation realm. It was hard to find a match among cultivators in the same realm as them. Moreover, they ambushed the Wang clan cultivators. How could they be a match for the Samling? Seeing that Lu Ping had arrived, the Samling transformed into a boy with a human body and a snake tail. They greeted Lu Ping with a smile while bragging about how many enemies they had defeated. Naturally, Lu Ping had to praise them. In the end, He even rewarded each of them with a bottle of the honey pills he had concocted using amethyst honey as the main ingredient. Debeo appeared out of nowhere with more than a dozen storage pouches hanging around his neck. When he saw Lu Ping handing out the honey pills, he immediately recalled the smell of these pills. He hurriedly ran forward to show off his achievements, hoping to snatch a few from Lu Ping. However, when Lu Ping saw him, he directly gave him a few condensed blood pearls. These were specially bought by Lu Ping in Xianyuan City for Debeo. He instructed him to go into closed-door cultivation after he returned and only come out when he had advanced to the late blood condensation realm. After that, Lu Ping even tore off the storage pouches hanging around Debeo's neck, causing the Samling to giggle at Debeo. By the time Wan Yu and the rest returned, Lu Ping had already sent the Samling back to the House of Gold. It was best to keep the information about the Green Sea Snake to himself. After settling Hong Ying and the rest down to recuperate, Yi Buki, Wuyan, and the rest also rushed to the cave abode. They reported to Lu Ping that Sungling Island had completely fallen into their hands. They also reported to Lu Ping about the number of casualties on Sungling Island. Lu Ping then ordered his men to reward each Listening Waves Island cultivator who participated in the battle with 500 spirit stones. The injured cultivators would receive a bottle of healing medicinal pellets and a bottle of cultivation medicinal pellets. The fallen cultivators would be rewarded with 1,000 spirit stones and 2 bottles of cultivation medicinal pellets. The deceased cultivators would also be given compensation to their families. Listening Waves Island would be responsible for taking care of their descendants. After Lu Ping's reward, all the cultivators cheered loudly. Their morale was greatly boosted, but the spirit stones in Lu Ping's hands had shrunk by 70,000 to 80,000. Half of the cultivation pills that Yu Jiangrui had accumulated over the years had also been used up. Lu Ping ordered Hong Ying's 4 Vajras and Yi Buki's 5 brothers to be the island masters of the 9 outer islands. These 9 people were all at least in the 8th layer of the blood condensation realm. Each of them had a late blood condensation realm cultivator as their assistant, and 10 mid-blood condensation realm cultivators to manage the islands. The rest of the cultivators were gathered on Sungling Island by Lu Ping. There were only a dozen late blood condensation realm cultivators and 30 to 40 mid-blood condensation realm cultivators left. Lu Ping ordered them to set up defenses around the island and patrol the nearby seas. The battle between Lu Ping and the Wang family had just begun. Killing enlightened Wang Hua was just the beginning. Lu Ping couldn't afford to be careless. However, what Lu Ping didn't know was that a few of the Wang family's cultivators survived. Zhang Feng and Li Maolin didn't seem to have any reason to hide the fact that Lu Ping and the others had worked together to kill enlightened Wang Hua. The news of Wang Hua's death and the Wang family's expulsion from the fallen mystic realm spread like wildfire in the Northern Alliance. At the same time, 4 first-layer core forging realm cultivators and 1 second-layer core forging realm cultivator dared to kill a mid-core forging realm cultivator. What was even more unbelievable was that they succeeded. Alchemy Master Lu Jiu, Scarlet Shadow Island Master Hong Ying, Black Mountain Gang's young Master Qiao Weiying, the mysterious beautiful enlightened master, and the mysterious young enlightened master. These 5 people suddenly became famous in the Northern Alliance. Chapter 325. Lu Ping gave the orders and everyone went back to work, except for Yi Buki. The 2 of them had a secret discussion in the cave dwelling for 2 hours before Yi Buki left with an excited look on his face. At this time, Lu Ping walked out of the cave residence and said to an empty place, "Come out. There is no one else here." A black figure suddenly appeared beside a big stone. Chu Ting looked even more valiant in her black nocturnal Taoist robe. Chu Ting looked at Lu Ping's eyes in surprise and said, "Is this the true pupils of 3 pure that you are practicing? I haven't mastered it yet, but you can see through my hidden celestial device. It seems that I also need to practice a kind of magical power that can see through falsehood." Lu Ping didn't answer her. Instead, he asked directly, "This action of expelling the Wang family is an indirect action that I helped your boudoir to deal with the Crystal Palace. According to the agreement, did you bring the tactical matrix plate?" Seeing that Lu Ping was serious, Chu Ting didn't say more. She took out a large jade plate with a radius of 1 meter from her storage celestial device and handed it to Lu Ping. She said, "If you want, this tactical matrix plate is a gift from my boudoir. You can take it and use it." Lu Ping waved his hand and said, "No need. I expelled the Wang family from the fallen secret land just to establish a foundation for myself in the East Sea. The cooperation with the boudoir to deal with the Crystal Palace is just a convenience. What's more, the boudoir has promised to help me establish a foothold for the force I run. After dealing with the senior officials of the Northern Alliance and the Crystal Palace, we are even this time. As for the tactical matrix plate, I will pay you back with enough elixirs. If I give it to you for free, you don't have to say any more." Chu Ting didn't want to give up and said, "Having a territory is not enough to build a force. If you have the support of the boudoir, your force can not only be consolidated quickly, but also grow steadily. But the prerequisite is that this force must be personally controlled by me, and no one else is allowed to interfere." Lu Ping interrupted Chu Ting's persuasion without hesitation. Then, he raised the formation plate in his hand and said, "Of course, if it's such a mutually beneficial and fair transaction, I'm still willing to do it. No matter what, I'm still very kind to the boudoir." Chu Ting watched as Lu Ping's eyes wandered. The expression on her face kept changing. No one knew what she was thinking. It was then that Wu Yan, who was far away, led tens of cultivators over. Seeing that, Chu Ting's face turned resolute. Taking 2 steps forward, she disappeared from sight. Not long after Wu Yan and the rest entered the cave abode, they each held something in their hands and flew off in different directions of Tsangling Island. Just as Chu Ting left Tsangling Island, Lu Ping inserted the 18 high-quality spirit stones and 108 medium-quality spirit stones into the formation plate. The formation plate in the cave abode vibrated, resonating with the surroundings of Tsangling Island. Then, a ray of blue light shot from the center of Tsangling Island into the sky. Then, like a giant umbrella opening, it enveloped the entire Tsangling Island. Faint cheers came from Tsangling Island. Chu Ting turned to look at the island's protective array and flew off. In an instant, she disappeared into the darkening sea. In the cave abode, Lu Ping sensed that Chu Ting had left. His lips curled into a mocking smile. Then, he went to a cultivation room in the cave abode to recover his true yuan. The 5 mini-spiritual veins on Hearing Waves Island had been moved over, increasing the size of the spiritual veins on Tsangling Island by half. Lu Ping had originally planned to leave 1 on each of the mini-islands. However, there were not enough on the 9 mini-islands. Thus, Lu Ping moved the spiritual veins here and set a rule for the 9 island masters to take turns using the spiritual veins to cultivate. The next day, with the help of Debao, Wu Yan found and counted all the spoils left by the Wang family on Tsangling Island. On Tsangling Island, there was 1 mini-spiritual vein and 37 places where spiritual energy gathered. Among them, there were 28 spiritual fields with a total of 60 mu. There were 5 spiritual herb gardens with a total of 9 mu. Most of them were 500-year-old spiritual herbs. The remaining 4 gardens were Haiter spiritual vine gardens with 6,800-year-old vines. There was also a Haiter spiritual tea garden that produced half a gene of Haiter spiritual tea every month. There was also a Haiter spiritual wood garden with a total of 59 Haiter spiritual trees. There was also a Picter spiritual bamboo garden with 35 stalks of Picter wind-singing bamboos. In addition, there was a mini-spiritual mine on Tsangling Island that produced about 80 pieces of spiritual stones a day. There was also a high-tier jadestone mine and a mid-tier mudstone mine. When Lu Ping heard about the spoils of Tsangling Island, he sucked in a breath of cold air. No wonder all the factions in the Eastern Sea liked to establish their own territories in the fallen secret region. Even sects like Xinling had traveled thousands of miles to establish their own territories in the fallen secret region. With such rich cultivation resources, even if there was a mini-spiritual vein on a small island, it would already be considered good if the resources available were only half of what Tsangling Island had. When Qiao Weiying, Hong Ying, and Qi Lianying heard about the spoils of Tsangling Island, they were all in disbelief. Their faces were filled with excitement. They felt that they had definitely made a profit from this adventure. Only Luan Yu did not pay much attention to this. He only looked at the excited faces of the others and laughed. Lu Ping, on the other hand, knew that the wealthier these clans were, the more the Wang clan wouldn't give up, and the more likely they would fight back. However, he naturally wouldn't say it out loud at this time to spoil everyone's mood. Besides, such a trivial matter didn't require him to remind them. Other than that, there were the storage pouches of the Wang family's cultivators. Other than the spiritual herbs which were all collected by Lu Ping, the rest of the items were not of interest to them. A portion was used by Wu Yan, and the rest was distributed to the cultivators under her. Wu Yan was in charge of this, and Lu Ping was too lazy to care about it. What Lu Ping and the others were interested in was the storage bracelet of enlightened Wanghua. Since there was no such thing as a secret vault on Sungling Island, everything was naturally carried by enlightened Wanghua, who had the highest cultivation. First was Wanghua's natal magic treasure, the Mystic Wood Ruler, and the Mystic Wood Shield that had been condensed with 3 treasure seals. This set of magic treasures, one for offense and the other for defense, complemented each other even more mysteriously, and could even perform the forest of 10,000 trees, small supernatural power. Luan Yu had long coveted these 2 items. He had the body of a wood luan, so the black wood treasure could also display its power in his hands. Moreover, after Luan Yu entered the core forging stage, he still did not have a suitable treasure. Therefore, Lu Ping left the black wood shield and black wood ruler to Luan Yu. Cultivation techniques and minor techniques were always beneficial to a faction. Unfortunately, Lu Ping did not find enlightened Wanghua's cultivation technique and the myriad wood forest minor technique in the storage bracelet. However, there was the cultivation technique for enlightened Wanghua's defensive minor technique, Silua Wall. Seeing that Luan Yu was not interested in it, Lu Ping knew that he had already cultivated other minor techniques, so he kept the jade slips. There were also some jade slips. Although the contents were not of interest to Lu Ping and the rest, they were still useful to the blood condensation cultivators under them. Lu Ping ordered Wu Yan to store these jade slips and open up a cave abode for his subordinates to read. These jade slips were the foundation of their faction. There was a fist-sized silver astral stone. This was a mutated, second-grade metal-attributed spiritual material. Xiao Weiying smiled and took it. His natal magic treasure was a pair of daggers. With this silver astral stone, the quality of his daggers would rise to a higher level. There was also a magic treasure, the fire pearl. However, this magic treasure was not high quality. It barely condensed a treasure restriction inside and had almost no possibility of improving it in the future. Naturally, its power would not be high. Enlightened Wanghua did not use it in battle. It was probably because the attribute was not compatible. However, it was still a magic treasure, and its power was much stronger than a top-grade magic treasure. Hong Ying had just advanced to the core forging realm, and cultivated a fire attribute cultivation method. The pestle in his hand was lent to him by Lu Ping. With the fire bead in his hands, he could unleash a lot of its power. Hong Ying was a rogue cultivator. Before he was subdued by Lu Ping, becoming a core forging enlightened master was something he didn't even dare to think about. In the ambush against enlightened Wanghua, he contributed the least, but he still received a magic treasure. How could Hong Ying not be ecstatic? Wu Yan was the only blood condensation realm cultivator in the cultivation room. After Yibuki's private talk with Lu Ping yesterday, he went into seclusion in one of the cultivation rooms in the spirit vein. Wu Yan didn't even need to think to know that Lu Ping was trying to help Yibuki become a core forging enlightened master. Looking at Hong Ying's excited face, how could Wu Yan not be envious? At that moment, he heard Lu Ping say, "You don't have to be envious of them. The cultivation technique they gave you is a relatively complete inheritance. I've already asked Yu Jiangrui to prepare the essence expanding pill and the 7-step marked pill for you. You can consume them after you advance to the peak of the blood condensation realm. At that time, you will have a high chance of becoming a core forging enlightened master. However, you must be careful when you supplement your bloodline for the third time. Do not use other bloodlines or bloodlines of different attributes. After hearing Lu Ping's explanation, how could Wu Yan not be grateful? He was weak by nature and wasn't good at fighting. If he hadn't followed Lu Ping before Hongying and Yubuki, and if he hadn't been diligent in handling the trivial matters that Lu Ping didn't care about, he wouldn't be where he was today. After listening to Lu Ping's instructions, how could Wu Yan not be grateful? He was cowardly and not good at fighting. If he didn't follow Lu Ping before Hongying and Yubuki, and if he didn't take care of those trivial matters that Lu Ping didn't care about, he wouldn't be where he is today. So, it's two enchantments. One of them is of the fire attribute. Hongying, your life-bound artifact has finally been upgraded to a magic treasure. However, that life-bound artifact of yours is too weak. Whether or not it can be refined into a magic treasure is another matter. A treasure restriction was a good thing. Even if they didn't need it, they still had to engrave it so that they could use it to exchange for things they needed in the future. The jade slip that recorded the minor ability, Sen Luo Bai, was the same. A treasure restriction was of the water attribute. However, it wasn't suitable for Lu Ping to use. This treasure restriction was mainly used to bind, lock, and bind. It was very suitable for Qi Lianying's water sleeves. The other jade scroll was a water elemental enchantment treasure, but it wasn't suitable for Lu Ping's usage. The enchantment treasure mainly focused on binding, locking, and binding, but it was more suitable for Qi Lianying's water sleeves. Chapter 326. The good things in Wang Hua's storage artifact were almost divided up by everyone. What was left were mostly some spirit grasses and spirit materials. Many of these things were the specialties of Tsungling Island. It seemed that Wang Hua had indeed put all the harvest on Tsungling Island into his own storage artifact. Lu Ping picked out more than 100,000-year-old spirit grasses. These were the collection of Wang Hua for many years. He told Wu Yan to give the rest of the spirit grasses to Yu Jiangrui. He told Yu Jiangrui to store the spirit materials for storage. 2 bottles of core forging stage cultivation dawn were actually good things. Core forging stage dawn were already in short supply. Even though there were 2 alchemy grandmasters in the cultivation room, they couldn't make bricks without straw. The dawn were divided between Hongying and Luanyu since their cultivations were the lowest. Lu Ping also found a pill recipe called the Eastern Wood Pill. It was a kind of cultivation pill that was only used in the middle stage of the core forging stage. This was a pleasant surprise. What Lu Ping lacked now was a pill recipe for the core forging stage. There were about 500,000 spirit stones inside. Lu Ping had once plundered a mid-sized spirit vein and obtained 3 million spirit stones. Although he had been extravagant and spent a lot of spirit stones in the past few years, he didn't really care about the 500,000 spirit stones. He only gave a few high-grade spirit stones to Luanyu and left the rest to Wu Yan to take care of. On the 3rd day, Yu Jiangrui found Lu Ping. "Have you really decided to do this?" Lu Ping hesitantly looked at Yu Jiangrui, who had a calm face in front of him. "Yes, during this time, I have tried several methods, whether it was the essence expanding pill, the meridian strengthening pill, the pure blood pill, the 7-step mark pill, the enchanting thought pill, or the other pills that I have mastered that can help me break through to the core forging stage. However, there was no change in my cultivation. If I don't use these methods, I'm afraid that I will end up like my master, waiting for my lifespan to run out." Lu Ping's expression turned solemn as he said, "In the cultivation world, there are countless alchemy recipes and countless extraordinary people. Maybe there are medicinal pellets or other methods that can help you improve your cultivation. If you use such a secret technique, although you can enter the core forging realm and become a grandmaster alchemist with your alchemy skills, your cultivation base is ultimately not your own. Not only will your strength be low, but you will also never be able to improve your cultivation base. As an alchemy master, my strength is low. So what if I become the lowest existence among the core forging stage? Not to mention that I have an extra 200 or 300 years of life, right? Seeing that Yu Jiangrui had made up his mind, Lu Ping knew it was useless to try to persuade him otherwise. So, he took out a jade box from his interspatial ring and opened it. Inside the box was a golden pellet with 4 patterns carved on its surface. It was enlightened Master Wang Hua's golden pellet. Yu Jiangrui saw that Lu Ping was a little hesitant, so he directly took the jade box from his hand and said with a smile, "You don't seem to be a stingy person. What's wrong? Don't worry, I'll stay under you for another 10 years. I'll use a 4th stage core forging stage golden pill to exchange for an alchemy grandmaster for 10 years. No matter what, you've made a profit." Lu Ping smiled bitterly and shook his head. Yu Jiangrui had already walked quickly into another cultivation room in the cave mansion. Yu Jiangrui's cultivation had reached the peak of the blood condensation realm because of the alchemy inheritance he received and the mistakes he made in his cultivation. This was also the reason why Yu Jiangrui became narrow-minded and could not tolerate outstanding alchemists in the blood condensation realm. In the end, he lost to Lu Ping in the cauldron-smashing agreement and became a servant for 10 years. In the end, it was just a fight between Lu Ping and Yu Jiangrui. In the end, Lu Ping won by a narrow margin. Now that he thought about it, he was too arrogant at that time and lacked modesty. The secret technique that Yu Jiangrui used was called the pill marriage secret technique. It relied on a core forging stage cultivator's golden pill and fused it into the space in his heart, allowing his cultivation to reach the core forging stage with the help of the golden pill. This was a shortcut. Although it was fast, it cut off the cultivator's hope of advancing further. No matter how high the golden pill was, the cultivator's cultivation could only stay at the early stage of the core forging stage for the rest of his life. Moreover, because the golden pill was not condensed from the cultivator's true essence, it was difficult for the cultivator to exert even a tenth of their strength in a fight. In fact, the cultivator was at the bottom of the core forging stage. It was also the last resort for blood condensation cultivators when their lifespans were exhausted, and they had no hope of reaching the core forging stage. Lu Ping sighed and threw this matter to the back of his mind. Right now, there were 2 things he had to do. One was to refine a batch of pills for the core forging stage. This was the deal Lu Ping made with the boudoir. Chu Ting had given the spiritual herbs to Lu Ping when she delivered the formation disc for the island's protective formation. With such a huge secret force like the boudoir, how could it not have a pill refiner? Putting everything else aside, Perfected Plum, who was closely related to the sect, seemed to be a pill refiner grandmaster. However, Perfected Plum seemed to have reached the critical moment of reaching the Dharma manifestation stage, so she naturally wouldn't make a move. Even Perfected Liang Xuanfeng's hurried departure from Silver Sword Island seemed to have something to do with this. Could it be to protect Perfected Plum? But why did Perfected Plum only trust Uncle Master Liang Xianfeng for such a huge force like the boudoir? Could it be that she didn't even trust her own force and would rather trust an outsider? Or could it be that the boudoir, a huge hidden force in the East Sea, actually had many internal factions, so Perfected Plum had no choice but to rely on external forces? Thinking of the Zhongxian's cave, when the cultivators of the boudoir ambushed the cultivators of the Crystal Palace, one of the perfected cultivators surnamed Jiang seemed to have something to say to Chu Ting and Perfected Plum. Lu Ping was even more certain. If this was the case, it made sense for Chu Ting to borrow his hands to refine pills. She was cultivating the power of her own faction. Although Chu Ting was also an alchemy grandmaster, she was the master of the boudoir, or the 24 pavilions. Not only was she busy, but there were also countless eyes secretly watching her. Handing over the alchemy to an outsider, and then secretly strengthening the power of her faction. Of course, the most important thing was that Lu Ping's alchemy skills were far above hers. Secondly, they had to guard against the counterattack of the cultivators of the Wang family. Perfected Wang Hua was one of the only 3 mid-stage core forging cultivators in the Wang family. The moment he died, the Wang family already knew. However, the distance between the fallen secret land and the Sand Family Island was so long that even a core forging cultivator would need 3 to 5 days to get there. Moreover, if the cultivators of the Wang family were normal, they would never rush to the fallen secret land so rashly. If they could kill a mid-stage core forging cultivator, they could naturally kill a second and a third. Before the Wang family figured out what happened in the fallen secret land, they would never take further action. However, when they figured out what happened, the constraints of the Northern Alliance and the boudoir would make the Wang family and the Crystal Palace hesitant to take action. What's more, Lu Ping had already reconstructed the island's defensive array formation. With the defensive array formation carefully chosen by Lu Ping, even if the Wang clan's 2 mid-core forging realm cultivators attacked at the same time, Lu Ping and the others were confident that they would be able to fend them off. To put it bluntly, Lu Ping was also gambling. However, he came to the East Sea alone, so even if he failed, he would not lose anything. If he succeeded, he would have established his own foundation. Of course, this foundation would still be managed by Hong Ying and the other two. After all, Lu Ping was not born in the East Sea, so he would have to return to the North Sea in the future. Moreover, Chu Ting and Zhu Xianmeng also knew some details about Lu Ping. Although their teacher, the mysterious immortal Plum, was inextricably linked to Jinling, Lu Ping would not pin his hopes on others to keep his secrets. Moreover, the person who had a close relationship with Jinling was immortal Plum, not her disciple. At least, Chu Ting and Lu Ping were scheming against each other for the sake of the boudoir. She was trying her best to win over Lu Ping. Lu Ping gave a part of the spirit herbs that Chu Ting gave to Luan Yu. Luan Yu could not wait to test her alchemy skills after advancing to the core forging stage. Although the spirit herb garden in the space of the Golden House was handed over by Lu Ping to Luan Yu to manage, the small mountain was still a forbidden area for Lu Ping. Lu Ping had too many secrets, so Luan Yu decided to follow him. Moreover, it was because of the need to manage the spirit herb garden that Lu Ping disclosed many of the secrets of the Golden House to Luan Yu. However, this did not mean that Lu Ping had to disclose all of his secrets. At the very least, treasures like the Nachuan cauldron, the 12 gentian beads, the profound heavy water, and the 9th grade white jade lotus were things that Lu Ping could not tell anyone except for himself. After Lu Ping's cultivation reached the second stage of the core forging stage, there was a significant improvement in all aspects. Naturally, his alchemy skills had also improved correspondingly. Since he was concocting pellets for someone else, Lu Ping naturally didn't want to use a precious treasure like the purple crystal royal jelly or a high-grade spirit stone to cast spirit explosion art. He also wouldn't use a second-grade wood element spirit material as charcoal to fuel the azure spirit fire. However, even so, Lu Ping had the experience of refining the Bell Cauldron pill, a pill that was half a step into the transcendence stage. Although it was a fluke, Lu Ping almost died from exhaustion from refining the Bell Cauldron pill, and his years of accumulation was also wasted. However, this experience was undoubtedly extremely valuable to an alchemist. When Lu Ping was concocting blood condensation realm medicinal pellets, he could easily achieve a 100% success rate. Even when he was concocting early core forging realm medicinal pellets, he could still easily maintain a 50% success rate. This was because Lu Ping had just advanced to the core forging realm, and he had to use all of his skills to concoct golden marrow pellets. However, Lu Ping was still doing his best to improve his alchemy skills. After all, Lu Ping's cultivation had already reached the second stage of the core forging stage, which was the time when the heart forging pill would come into play. However, the heart forging pill was a higher grade pill than the Bell Cauldron pill, and it was a pill that was half a step into the transcendence stage. However, this kind of pill was something that Lu Ping would definitely not let others refine. In the eyes of any force, the heart forging pill was an existence that defied the natural order. If news of this pill were to be leaked, the cultivation world would inevitably be in a bloodbath. Lu Ping would be the first unlucky person to be exposed. This was also why the Liao family of the North Sea did not dare to leak the news of the heart forging pill. It was also why Liao who risked his life to enter the Golden Fallen Valley to find the remains of his grandfather, Liao Ding. Chapter 327. The concoction of the Bell Cauldron pill required 5 types of 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs. However, these spiritual herbs were the most common among the 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs. Their medicinal effects were not that valuable. On the other hand, the Forging Heart pill required 3 types of 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs, 9-fold grass, 7 battle flowers, and yin-yang branches. Each of them was extremely valuable among the 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs. Hence, the difficulty of concocting the Forging Heart pill was even higher than the Bell Cauldron pill. Fortunately, Lu Ping had already found the 9-fold grass and 7 battle flowers from enlightened Master Liao Ding's magic treasures. He also found the rarest yin-yang branches in the golden house that he obtained from Zhong Xian's cave abode. Thus, he barely managed to gather enough spiritual herbs to concoct the Forging Heart pill. Unfortunately, concocting the Forging Heart pill required a lot of time, and the alchemist had to do a lot of preparation work. After consuming the Forging Heart pill, Lu Ping had to spend a long time in seclusion to refine the medicinal energy and consolidate his cultivation. Hence, Lu Ping had no choice but to postpone his plan to concoct the Forging Heart pill until the Wang family's matter was settled. 7 to 8 days passed. On this day, as Lu Ping was meditating in his cultivation room, an angry howl suddenly came from the outskirts of Tsangling Island. The howl covered a distance of a few li in an instant. The howl seemed even more agitated because of the increased speed of the howl. The overflowing divine sense pressure borrowed the howl's momentum to crush the blood condensation realm cultivators on Tsangling Island. Lu Ping frowned. The incomer's cultivation was definitely above the core forging realm. However, the howl was directed at the blood condensation realm cultivators on Tsangling Island. This kind of divine sense attack could cause significant damage to early and mid-blood condensation realm cultivators. It was obvious that the incomer was trying to intimidate the blood condensation realm cultivators on Tsangling Island. This was against the unwritten rules of the cultivation world. Lu Ping slammed his hand on the ground. With a loud bang, the island's protective array was activated. The entire Tsangling Island was covered in a sea blue shield. The howl was immediately weakened. Lu Ping took the lead and walked out of the grotto mansion, followed by Qi Lianying and the other 2. Luan Yu, however, did not come out. Luan Yu was a Yao after all, and a member of the Wood Luan clan at that. Once a cultivator like Lu Ping who cultivated a vision ability saw through them, Lu Ping and the others would be charged with the crime of colluding with Yao cultivators. If they were to provoke Fa Xiang Laozu to kill Luan Yu and take her gold core, Lu Ping and the others would not be able to live. The 4 of them walked out of the island's protective array formation. The 2 middle-aged cultivators hovered in the air with their hands clasped behind their backs. One of them looked at the ocean blue protective array formation on Tsangling Island. It was clearly stronger than the Wang clan's protective array formation on Tsangling Island. The other middle-aged cultivator in green robes looked at Lu Ping and the others with interest. When Qi Lianying and the others saw the 2 mid-core forging cultivators, their expressions changed. Could it be that the Wang clan's only 2 mid-core forging cultivators had arrived? Was the Wang clan going to stake everything on this one attack? Everyone looked at Lu Ping in front of them, only to see that he was calm and unperturbed by the appearance of the 2 mid-core forging realm cultivators in front of him. Were you the ones who killed my 3rd brother and stole the Wang clan's property? The middle-aged cultivator looked at Lu Ping and the others and asked in a cold voice. His eyes were filled with killing intent. Your Excellency is so majestic and fierce. It seems that one day we should go to the Wang clan's manor on the 3 clans island and roar. Let the Wang clan's low-level cultivators come and admire us. How could Lu Ping respond to his words? Instead, he retaliated with a barrage of insults, insinuating that the middle-aged cultivator had broken the rules of the cultivation world by attacking low-level cultivators. When the middle-aged cultivator heard this, his expression suddenly became sluggish and his aura weakened. When he had rushed over, he had only wanted to intimidate Lu Ping and the others. However, he had forgotten that the low-level cultivators on the island could not withstand the spiritual sense attack of a core forging cultivator. If the other party went crazy and attacked the Wang clan's low-level cultivators, both sides would suffer. This was not something the Wang clan wanted to see. After all, the Wang clan was not made up of a few core forging cultivators. Hee hee. At this moment, the green-robed middle-aged cultivator laughed and said, "This must be Master Lu Jiu. No matter what, you killed enlightened Master Wang Hua and slaughtered dozens of Wang clan cultivators on that Songling Island." Enlightened Master Wang Zhou lost control of his emotions in a fit of rage. On the other hand, Master Lu and the others killed people and seized the island. Their actions were despicable. Enlightened Master Wang Zhou came to take revenge. Is that wrong? Even if I see injustice, I will still step on it. Lu Ping carefully looked at the green-robed cultivator and casually glanced around. Suddenly he laughed and asked in a clear voice, "Who are you? Why are you interfering in the battle of the Northern Alliance?" Seeing Lu Ping laugh, the green-robed cultivator's heart tightened. Hearing this, he replied, "I am enlightened Master Wang Zhou's best friend. There is no need to tell me my name. Hee hee, although fellow Taoist Chiu Yongzhen lives next to our three-family alliance in the Fallen Mystery Land, we rarely interact. I don't know when you became Wang Zhou's best friend. I am very curious. Could it be that the Chiu clan, one of the 36 families under the Crystal Palace, and the Wang clan, one of the medium-sized forces of the Northern Alliance, are secretly in cahoots?" A few miles away from the two sides, a voice slowly floated over. Two figures appeared and flew toward the Tsungling Island. They were Zhang Feng and Li Maolin. Anyone with a discerning eye would know the relationship between the Wang clan and the Crystal Palace. However, knowing was one thing, admitting it was another. As long as the Wang clan did not betray the Northern Alliance, the Northern Alliance could not do anything to the Wang clan. Zhang Feng's question made Wang Zhou and Chiu Yongzhen panic. If this answer was not good, it would prove that the Wang clan was in cahoots with the Crystal Palace. The Northern Alliance could easily destroy the Wang clan. In the end, it was Wang Zhou who spoke. "I am familiar with fellow Taoist Chiu, so I invited him to help. This has nothing to do with the Wang clan and the Chiu clan, let alone the Northern Alliance and the Crystal Palace. However, Brother Zhang and Brother Li were hiding and watching. Are you trying to make things difficult for me? Or could it be that my third brother was ambushed and killed? Apart from these few small cultivators, were there other people like the two of you who were also hiding in the shadows?" This Reverend Wang Zhou was not someone who was easy to deal with. With just a few words, he retorted sarcastically. Not only did he draw a line between the Wang clan and the cultivators of Water Crystal Palace, he even made a false accusation, implying that the two of them were not open and above board. Li Maolin laughed and said, "Brother Wang, you must be joking. Brother Zhang and I came here to tell Brother Wang that the Soundwave Manor is a force under the Northern Alliance, after all. The grudge with the Wang clan is just an internal conflict of the Northern Alliance. If Brother Wang uses external forces to resolve the grudge, we might have to step in to suppress it." Wang Zhenren Wang Zhou's expression changed this time. He said, "Soundwave Manor? When was this force established? When did the Northern Alliance recognize such a force? Why didn't the Wang clan know about it?" Chiu Yongzhen's expression also changed as she looked at Li Maolin. At this time, another voice said, "The Soundwave Manor was actually established half a year ago. The Dark Mountain Gang is the guarantor. Do you believe fellow Taoist Wang?" When everyone looked over, they saw a cultivator in his 50s flying over slowly from afar. Wang Zhou, Zhang Feng, and the others looked back at Xiao Weiying, who was standing behind Lu Ping. Xiao Weiying looked very similar to the person who had just arrived. The person who had just arrived was the leader of the Dark Mountain Gang, Xiao Jingyan. Li Maolin and the others naturally recognized him. The Dark Mountain Gang was a medium-sized force in the Northern Alliance. On the surface, it was not as powerful as any of the three islands. However, the base of the Dark Mountain Gang was in Xianyuan City. No one present believed that an ordinary medium-sized force in the Northern Alliance could stand firm in Qianyuan City. In fact, when Lu Ping first arrived at Qianyuan City, he had already noticed that an ordinary force with only 3 core forging experts could make so many large elixir stores in Qianyuan City give them face and sell their 1,000-year spirit herbs to Lu Ping. Their face was too big. Which of those large spirit herb stores didn't have a core forging expert behind them? When Lu Ping returned from Silver Sword Island, he had been waiting for Luan Yu to advance to the core forging stage in Qianyuan City. During this time, he began to make arrangements. He asked the Dark Mountain Gang to be his guarantor and applied to the Northern Alliance to establish his own force, the Soundwave Manor. This way, the battle between the Soundwave Manor and the Wang family would be included in the rules of the Northern Alliance. This way, they could avoid direct conflict with the Crystal Palace as much as possible. As expected, the Crystal Palace sent Qiu Yongzhen. This time, he had indeed come under the orders of the Crystal Palace to help. Naturally, the Crystal Palace would not personally help the Wang family. That would cause a violent backlash from the Northern Alliance. However, if the Crystal Palace were to help the Wang family, they would be able to completely disassociate themselves from the matter. However, Qiu Yongzhen never expected that the Soundwave Manor had already established its own force in advance, and had already obtained the approval of the Northern Alliance. However, the Northern Alliance had kept this matter a secret. The Wang family had been schemed against. Qiu Yongzhen felt that she had walked to the edge of a trap. If she didn't clear her name, these 3 core forging experts who had just appeared might not be there for nothing. They might even want her to intervene and then take her life together to claim credit from the Northern Alliance. Wang Zhou naturally saw that this was the Northern Alliance using Lu Ping to punish the Wang family. Seeing that Qiu Yongzhen sighed and didn't say anything, he knew that the Wang family had already lost their outside help. The Wang family could only silently swallow this bitter fruit. He couldn't accept this. A wave of hostility rose from the bottom of his heart. Wang Zhou suddenly raised his head, his eyes filled with murderous intent. He stared at Lu Ping and said fiercely, "What a good internal power competition from the Northern Alliance! What a good scheme!" However, the Wang family will not allow you to bully us like this. Today you and I will fight. If I can't do anything to you, the Wang family will not cause trouble for the Soundwave Manor in the future. The Wang family will give you the property on Sungling Island as a gift. If you die in my hands, then you deserve it. The Northern Alliance can't blame the Wang family. Kid, do you dare to accept the challenge? Reverend Qiu Yongzhen opened her mouth but didn't stop him. She didn't believe that Wang Zhou would lose. After all, the Wang family had sided with the Crystal Palace. However, in Qiu Yongzhen's eyes, Lu Ping definitely wouldn't accept the challenge. What a joke! Wang Zhou had been in the mid-core forging realm for decades and had long reached the peak of the 4th layer. He was only 1 step away from the 5th layer. How could Wang Hua, who had just entered the mid-core forging realm, compare to him? Hong Ying and Xiao Weiying both tried to persuade Lu Ping not to accept the challenge. Qi Lianing mocked Wang Zhou. A mid-core forging realm cultivator challenging a 2nd layer core forging realm cultivator. Wasn't he afraid of becoming a joke? However, Wang Zhou turned a deaf ear to them. He only looked at Lu Ping and sneered. Zhang Feng, Li Maolin, and Qiao Xingyan also signaled Lu Ping not to accept the challenge. Lu Ping pondered for a while. Looking at Wang Zhou's mocking expression, he suddenly smiled and said, "If you want to fight, then let's fight. What can you do to me?" Chapter 328. What can you do to me? A huge battle intent surged from Lu Ping's body, making Qiao Weiying and the others' blood boil. Zhang Feng, Xiao Xingyan, and the others momentarily forgot to reprimand Lu Ping for his recklessness. Good, good! Immortal Wang Zhou was so angry that he laughed. He pointed at Lu Ping and said, "You've got guts. I'll say it again, if I can't do anything to you, the Wang family will naturally not cause trouble for your listening wave manor." Lu Ping chuckled and said, "No hurry. This Tsangling Island was taken by our listening wave manor cultivators with our lives. Whether or not the Wang family causes trouble for our listening wave manor, we have no reason to be afraid. However, the Wang family has already retreated from the fallen mystic realm, so there is no reason for the Wang family to take the 2 shares of the mid-sized spirit mine on Nameless Island. If Immortal Wang Zhou can't do anything to me, then hand over the 2 shares. Immortal Wang Zhou didn't say anything. His face was so gloomy that it looked like it was about to drip water. A stone hammer rose into the air and pointed at Lu Ping from afar. Lu Ping didn't say anything. The golden scales sword instantly pierced through his body. An extreme sword intent soared into the sky and a surging murderous aura surged out. Zhang Feng and the others who were watching the battle were all shocked. Lu Ping had no choice but to fight this battle. Lu Ping's plan was meticulous, and he seemed to have the upper hand. However, whether it was the Northern Alliance, the Crystal Palace, or the looming boudoir, Lu Ping might be able to gain a temporary advantage in the game between these major forces, but in the end, it all came down to strength. Right now, Lu Ping might be able to use Zhang Feng, Li Maolin, and Qiao Jingyan to force Wang Zhou and Qiu Yongjin to retreat, but that wasn't Listening Wave Island's true strength. It was just a trick. These forces and the other Northern Alliance forces wouldn't take it seriously. In the end, it all came down to strength. In the world of cultivation, trickery was only used between opponents of equal strength. If Soundwave Island wanted to establish itself among the many factions of the Northern Alliance, this battle would be the quickest way for them to settle things once and for all. As long as Lu Ping did not fall into a disadvantageous position against Wang Zhou, he did not even need to win. His mid-core forging strength would undoubtedly strengthen Soundwave Island's position in the Northern Alliance and the fallen secret land. He raised the stone hammer high and smashed it straight down at Lu Ping. There was no technique to speak of. It was a pure brute force. Obviously, the golden scale sword could not contend against such an overbearing magic treasure head-on. The golden scale sword rolled up 3 sword waves in a row. After Lu Ping's swordsmanship had reached the unity of sword and practice realm, the power of Lu Ping's swordsmanship was no less than that of an ordinary minor magical power. Of course, this was when Lu Ping used his full strength. Right now, Lu Ping did not use the 1,000 snow piles to its limit. However, Lu Ping still relied on this strike to delay the stone hammer's attack. Lu Ping himself had already retreated rapidly. The stone hammer broke through the golden scale sword's obstruction, but it had already lost its target. The stone hammer struck empty air, but the huge wind pressure brought by the stone hammer directly pressed a 10-foot deep depression into the sea. The power of the stone hammer was clearly beyond Lu Ping's expectations. Even Zhang Feng and the others who were watching the battle had grave expressions. The stone hammer flew up again. This time, it spun and struck at Lu Ping, as if it was thrown out by perfected Wang Zhou. The golden scale sword in Lu Ping's hand slashed a wave of water. It turned into 4 water dragons in the space, but they were smashed by the stone hammer. Lu Ping intended to use the same trick again to avoid the stone hammer's attack. However, he saw perfected Wang Zhou's hand forming a seal. Suddenly, a blue ball of light condensed between his hands and flew towards Lu Ping's feet. The blue ball of light exploded. Lu Ping, who was about to dodge, suddenly felt his whole body stagnate. It was as if his feet were grabbed by countless hands. It was as if his whole body was several times heavier, and it was immediately difficult to move. It was such a moment of delay that the stone hammer had already smashed Lu Ping into pieces amidst the exclamations of the crowd. However, it only splashed water all over the sky. Not far away, a stream of seawater suddenly flowed against the current and recondensed into Lu Ping's appearance on the surface of the sea. Art of Sea Deception. Lu Ping looked at perfected Wang Zhou with a solemn expression. The feeling of heaviness in his body just now was still faintly present, but it did not affect Lu Ping much. The blue ball of light was obviously a minor magical power that perfected Wang Zhou had cultivated. Although this divine ability did not appear to be very powerful and cultivators did not care about the hundreds or thousands of kilograms of force, this divine ability was very troublesome. If a cultivator were to casually use it in a fight, it would easily cause his opponent to make some minor mistakes. That was especially true in a fight of life and death. The slightest mistake could result in a difference of thousands of miles. More often than not, a cultivator would end up dying a tragic death due to a trivial mistake by his opponent. However, at this moment, the embarrassment on Lu Ping's face was not because of this minor magical power, but because the stone hammer had returned to perfected Wang Zhou's hand. Just when the stone hammer broke through the obstruction of the golden scale sword and Lu Ping was about to dodge, the stone hammer suddenly took advantage of the fact that Lu Ping was restricted by Wang Zhou's minor magical power and suddenly sped up to attack Lu Ping. If it were not for Lu Ping's art of sea deception, he would have been seriously injured if not killed by the stone hammer. For treasure restrictions, a spiritual magic treasure. Magic treasures could be controlled by blood condensation cultivators, but every magic treasure had to be formed by the hands of a core forging enlightened master. The reason was not only because of the magic treasure's own material and treasure restrictions, but also because of the magic treasure's spirituality. Only when a cultivator advanced to the core forging realm could their divine sense be forged into the golden core, and their true essence could contain spirituality. When a magic treasure was successfully nurtured, true essence with spirituality was an important medium. However, magic treasures were the same as the cultivation of a core forging enlightened master. After condensing 3 treasure restrictions, no matter how high the material of the magic treasure was, it was still an ordinary magic treasure. Only when a cultivator fused with a heaven and earth spirit object and advanced to the mid-core forging realm would the spirituality in their true essence greatly increase. When condensing the 4th treasure restriction, the spirituality of the magic treasure would also increase by leaps and bounds. Not only would the magic treasure's power increase, but it would also have many other wonderful uses. This kind of magic treasure was called a spiritual magic treasure. Legend has it that when a magic treasure condenses the 7th treasure restriction and is nourished by a late core forging realm cultivator who fused with a second heaven and earth spirit object, the spirituality of the magic treasure will increase again, and it will be called a spiritual magic treasure. Lu Ping did not expect perfected Wang Zhou to have a spiritual magic treasure, and Qiao Jingyan was also quite surprised. As for Zhang Feng and Li Maoan, they seemed to be a little impatient. The power of a spiritual magic treasure was far greater than that of an ordinary magic treasure, and more importantly, it was rare. When a cultivator advanced to the mid-core forging realm, condensing a heaven and earth spirit object was an extremely difficult process. Very few cultivators would have enough spirituality to upgrade their magic treasure to a spiritual magic treasure. Generally, cultivators would only have enough spirituality to condense a spiritual magic treasure after reaching the 6th layer of core forging realm, or even after condensing a heaven and earth spirit object for the 2nd time. Therefore, a powerful spiritual magic treasure could affect the balance between the Zhang and Li clans, whose strongest combat power was only at the mid-core forging realm. How could the 2 clans remain calm? The stone hammer was obviously perfected Wang Zhou's natal magic treasure, but perfected Wang Zhou was able to upgrade his natal magic treasure to a spiritual magic treasure when he was only at the 4th layer of core forging realm. This meant that perfected Wang Zhou was not as simple as the Zhang and Li clans thought. Lu Ping also realized that enlightened master Wang Zhou's attack was probably a ploy to hide his strength. At this time, perfected Wang Zhou attacked again. As the stone hammer danced in the air, it was obvious that he did not want to give Lu Ping a chance to catch his breath. Blue light flashed between his hands, and from time to time, he would send blue light balls into Lu Ping's body, affecting Lu Ping's attack. These light balls made Lu Ping's body feel light and heavy, and his grasp of the details constantly deviated. His whole body looked like it was surrounded by danger, and several mistakes even caused Lu Ping to be injured by the stone hammer. If not for the protection of the water curtain true aura, which was far stronger than other small magical powers, Lu Ping might have been hit by the stone hammer a few times. Lu Ping must not die. He could lose, but he must not die in the hands of perfected Wang Zhou. Zhang Feng, Xiao Jingyan, and Li Maolin had all kinds of thoughts, and they absolutely would not allow such a thing to happen. The three of them looked at each other, as if they understood each other's thoughts. Unknowingly, the three of them had already formed a corner, surrounding the area where perfected Wang Zhou and Lu Ping were fighting. Perfected Xiu Yongzhen looked at the three's movements, and her expression kept changing. No one knew what she was thinking. Perfected Wang Zhou was very sharp, and naturally noticed the three's strange movements. At the same time, he also understood their thoughts. However, the killing intent on perfected Wang Zhou's face became even more intense. Let's see if the three of you will make a move in time, or if I will kill this kid first to avenge third brother. However, at this moment, 2 jade bracelets suddenly flew out of Lu Ping's body. After these 2 jade bracelets flew out, Hong Ying and the others who were anxious next to him calmed down a little. The scene of Lu Ping killing perfected Wang Hua with the power of the ice and fire bracelets was still vivid in everyone's mind, so Zhang Feng and Li Maolin naturally relaxed a lot. Although the power of the ice and fire bracelets was still inferior to the stone hammer, the combination of the two weakened the power of the stone hammer a lot. At the same time, the poison fire and ice surrounded Lu Ping, so Lu Ping's defense was greatly improved. The golden scale sword was no longer blindly used to block and weaken the attack of the stone hammer, but occasionally counterattacked, so perfected Wang Zhou did not dare to blindly attack. Perfected Wang Zhou was extremely angry. He did not expect that Lu Ping could really be in a stalemate with him. However, he, who had always maintained a sense of reason, also understood that the death of perfected Wang Hua was not done by others, but by the person in front of him. This person could not be left alive. Perfected Wang Zhou thought that this hatred had already been formed. If this person's cultivation was successful in the future, there would be no way for the Wang family to survive. Perfected Wang Zhou, who had made up his mind, suddenly took out an item from his magic tool. Just as he was about to use it, his expression changed. A defensive magic treasure suddenly appeared in front of him. With a ding sound, the nether water sword was struck back. At this moment, the poison fire and ice in the ice and fire bracelets suddenly flourished, forcibly blocking the attack of the stone hammer. Lu Ping's face suddenly turned red. However, Lu Ping finally managed to free up his hands. Ignoring the tremors in his body caused by the strike, the golden scales sword let out a loud sword hum. Sword shadows circled around the golden scales sword like a lantern. In an instant, a gigantic sword with unparalleled might slashed towards enlightened Master Wang Zhou. Chapter 329. Although each of the 6 sword techniques of the North Sea's 12 orthodox techniques was broad and profound, except for the green serpent disturbing the sea's sword technique, the other 5 sword techniques seemed to be more suitable for cultivators to use in group battles. Compared to the green serpent disturbing the sea's sword technique, the true essence one spirit sword technique was not as flexible as the green serpent disturbing the sea's sword technique, but it was heavy and powerful. It was most suitable for cultivators to fight head-on. Lu Ping used the combination of ice and fire to block Taoist Wang Zhou's attack. In exchange for this opportunity to counterattack, he exerted the true essence one spirit sword technique to the extreme, turning it into a giant sword dharma image that slashed towards Taoist Wang Zhou. Taoist Wang Zhou saw the giant sword slashing towards him, and his face was solemn. Sword cultivators' attack power had always been number 1 in the cultivation world. Although Lu Ping's cultivation was not as good as Taoist Wang Zhou's, Taoist Wang Zhou did not dare to underestimate Lu Ping, not to mention that this was a swordsmanship that had reached the sword and practice as one realm. Taoist Wang Zhou suddenly stretched out his hands, and a wave of primordial qi spiraled up, turning into 2 giant hands that covered the sky. The stone hammer was also called out, and the two giant hands tightly gripped the stone hammer Dharma image and collided with the giant sword in the sky. One had a high cultivation and a spiritual magic weapon, while the other had sharp swordsmanship and had the upper hand. The two were actually evenly matched. The two magic weapons flew backwards, and suddenly a giant seal appeared in the sky, smashing towards Taoist Wang Shou. Landslide was Lu Ping's favorite mystic instrument, and had been using it for the longest time. Landslide's grade was high enough to be upgraded to a mystic instrument, but unfortunately, Lu Ping didn't have a suitable mystic instrument in his possession. Even so, with Lu Ping's current core forging realm cultivation base, Landslide's power wasn't any weaker than an ordinary mystic instrument. Seeing that Lu Ping was only using a magic artifact to attack, Wang Zhou gave a cold snort. However, he still did not dare to be careless in his defense. The defensive magic artifact that had previously blocked the nether water sword once again appeared above Wang Zhou's head. At the same time, an earthen yellow light shone around Wang Zhou. Clearly, it was to prevent Lu Ping from using the nether water sword to launch another sneak attack using the invisible sword technique. Landslide smashed onto Spiritual Master Wang Zhou's defensive magic treasure. A huge force came and pushed Spiritual Master Wang Zhou back several feet. This made Spiritual Master Wang Zhou very surprised, as he didn't expect a top-grade magic treasure to have such power. Spiritual Master Wang Zhou repeatedly attacked, but not only did he not gain the upper hand, but Lu Ping also seized the opportunity to counterattack. Spiritual Master Wang Zhou had always been arrogant, and although he was not ostentatious in his actions in the three clans, he had never placed the other core forging cultivators in his eyes. In this battle with Lu Ping, he had carefully cultivated a spiritual magic treasure in front of Zhang Feng and Li Maolin, but he could do nothing to Lu Ping, who was only a second-layer core forging cultivator. How could the arrogant Spiritual Master Wang Zhou bear this? Enlightened Master Wang Zhou's eyes grew colder and colder as he stared at Lu Ping. A storm of spiritual energy gradually surged around Enlightened Master Wang Zhou, and several spirit runes lit up on his body. It was a strange scene. Li Maolin looked at the spirit runes around Spiritual Master Wang Zhou, and as if he suddenly thought of something, he exclaimed, "Confinement runes! These are confinement runes! You actually imprisoned your own cultivation. You're not a fourth-layer core forging cultivator." The spirit runes around Spiritual Master Wang Zhou's body became brighter and brighter, as if a taut rope was about to snap. When the light of the spirit runes reached their peak, they suddenly disappeared, and an imposing aura that far exceeded that of before suddenly spread out. Fifth-layer core forging. Spiritual Master Wang Zhou had been hiding his cultivation all this time. He was a fifth-layer core forging cultivator. Among the 5 mid-stage core forging enlightened masters, Li Maolin, Zhang Feng, and Qiu Yongzhen were all at the 4th-layer core forging. Spiritual Master Wang Zhou was originally at the 4th-layer core forging, but no one expected that Spiritual Master Wang Zhou's cultivation had already reached the 5th-layer core forging. At this moment, only Qiao Jingyan, who was also at the 5th-layer core forging, could match Spiritual Master Wang Zhou. All the enlightened masters present, including Qiu Yongzhen, had an ugly expression on their faces. Spiritual Master Wang Zhou was annoyed because he couldn't take care of Lu Ping and exposed his cultivation. Needless to say, Lu Ping and the others were annoyed. Even Qiu Yongzhen was somewhat dissatisfied with Spiritual Master Wang Zhou's sudden change in cultivation. Enlightened Master Wang Zhou didn't care about this at all. After revealing all his trump cards, Enlightened Master Wang Zhou only had one goal, and that was to kill Lu Ping. The huge stone hammer was held in the hand of Spiritual Master Wang Zhou's primordial qi hand. Lu Ping wielded the golden scale sword and continuously used the sword art of unity qi, the green dragon ocean disturbance, and the great river east sword art, to fight against Spiritual Master Wang Zhou's stone hammer. However, Spiritual Master Wang Zhou's current strength was not something that Lu Ping could resist. The golden scale sword was knocked away by the stone hammer one after another, and Lu Ping was forced to retreat on the sea. If it weren't for the ice and fire rings, which repeatedly dissolved spiritual master Wang Zhou's attacks, Lu Ping would have been defeated long ago. The water ghost sword and landslide were no longer useful at this time. Every attack of the stone hammer caused Lu Ping's body to suffer a violent shock, and the consumption of his jinqi increased. If it weren't for Lu Ping's deep jinqi, he would have been unable to resist. However, he didn't know that his performance at this time had already shocked the core forging masters present. Qiao Weiying and the others shook their heads as they watched. If their positions were switched with Lu Ping, they would have been smashed into meat paste by spiritual master Wang Zhou's stone hammer. Li Maolin and Zhang Feng looked at each other and thought to themselves, "If I were to fight with Wang Zhou, I would at most be able to do this. This Lu Jiu really has the strength to compete with a core forging master." Xiao Jingyan's face was calm, but his mind was racing. He really had his own background and support in Xianyuan City. He knew more about the expulsion of the Wang family from the fallen secret land by Listening Wave Prefecture than Lu Ping imagined. He knew that in addition to the Northern Alliance behind this matter, there was another force that was targeting the Crystal Palace, and the Northern Alliance seemed to have formed a tacit understanding with this force on the issue of dealing with the Crystal Palace. Thinking of the boudoir that was wanted by the Crystal Palace in the East Sea during this period of time, Qiao Jingyan inadvertently glanced at the faces of Zhang Feng and Li Maolin, not knowing which of the two families was the force of the boudoir. Speaking of which, it was funny that these three islands really belonged to three different forces. It could be said that the islands lived up to their names. The sword of true energy was once again shattered by the stone hammer. This time, Lu Ping could no longer suppress the injury in his body, and a stream of blood immediately flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Qi Lianying's expression changed, but this time, the scattered 1296 psychic sword lights were not quickly condensed by the golden scale sword like before to display a new move or a new sword technique. Wang Zhou's face was filled with joy, and he controlled the stone hammer to smash the golden scale sword. Without the protection of the psychic sword lights, how could the golden scale sword, which had only condensed 2 treasure restrictions, be a match for a psychic magic treasure that had condensed 4 treasure restrictions? However, just as the stone hammer flew up, the psychic sword lights scattered in all directions did not lose control. The golden scale sword suddenly let out a rapid sword hum. This was a sign that the golden scale sword's endurance had reached its limit. Everyone was stunned. This time, the golden scale sword did not collide with the stone hammer, but this magic treasure flying sword could not withstand it first. Everyone looked at Lu Ping, but they saw that Lu Ping, who was bleeding from the corner of his mouth, suddenly closed his eyes, as if he was feeling something. What was the meaning of this? Although the use of spiritual sense was above the eyes in a fight between cultivators, the eyes still had an irreplaceable role in a fight, especially for cultivators like Lu Ping who had cultivated the magical power of sight. Wang Zhou did not care about this. His hands once again condensed a ball of blue light, but this time, he threw it onto his stone hammer, causing the surface of the black stone hammer to be covered with a layer of blue gauze. The stone hammer once again rushed forward, and the psychic sword lights along the way dodged when they came into contact with the blue surface of the stone hammer. Seeing that the stone hammer was about to hit Lu Ping, not only did Lu Ping not take out a protective magic treasure or magic tool, he did not even open his protective aura. Only the sword hum of the golden scale sword was getting more and more rapid and loud. Just as Qi Lianying could not help but make a move, Lu Ping suddenly opened his eyes. Looking at the approaching stone hammer, Lu Ping was expressionless. His arms casually drew a circle in front of him, and the 1296 psychic sword lights on the sea surface, including the golden scale sword, all let out a sword hum. All the perfected people present, except for Lu Ping, had a drastic change in expression. This was not the sword hum made by the vibration of the golden scale sword, but the sword hum made by all the psychic sword lights, including the golden scale sword. This was the sound of killing. The sword hum, the magical power was completed. This was not a small magical power like practicing sword as one, which was a perfect concept, small magical power. This was a true great magical power of swordsmanship, or rather, the prelude to a great magical power of swordsmanship. Perfected Wang Zhou forcefully retracted the stone hammer that he had swung out. He could no longer care that this action would cause a backlash to the quintessential essence in his body. This was because when the sword chime sounded, the psychic sword light that filled the sky, with the golden scale sword as the center, had instantly formed a huge sword formation, or rather, the prototype of a sword formation. A sword formation was formed when the sword was drawn. This was the true use of the psychic sword lights. This was the foundation of a magical power of swordsmanship. Recalling the scene of Lu Ping consuming the enchanting thought pill when he was at the peak of the blood condensation realm, the sword formation in front of him condensed again, like a blooming flower, or like a whirlpool in deep water. 100 rivers into the sea sword art. At this moment, Lu Ping could be considered to have seen the door of this sword art. Lu Ping stretched out his hand and pointed. The huge sword formation was like a torrent of swordsmanship, rushing towards perfected Wang Zhou. Perfected Wang Zhou acted as if he was facing a great enemy. He raised his defensive artifact in the air to protect himself, and the stone hammer danced and circled in front of him. Then, he did something that made all the cultivators present dumbfounded. He turned and fled. Chapter 330. Perfected Wang Zhou had escaped. This time, not only was Lu Ping at a loss, but the others were also looking at each other in dismay. This was too unbelievable. Even though Lu Ping had comprehended the great sword technique and formed a sword array with the psychic sword ray, the cultivators present could all see that Lu Ping was only at the beginning of the great sword technique. The power of the sword array could not be fully unleashed. With perfected Wang Zhou's strength, even if he was no match for Lu Ping's great sword technique, he could still fight for a few rounds and then retreat. Even though that would be a loss of face, it was much better than retreating before the battle even started. Perfected Wang Zhou was not just losing face now, this was simply a disgrace. If this got out, perfected Wang Zhou would be a joke in the cultivation world of the East Sea. Perhaps fellow Taoist Wang retreated because he felt that he could not win. After all, fellow Taoist Wang is usually arrogant and disdains many things. Not to mention, fellow Taoist Wang was not in a hurry to escape just now. At this time, Qiu Yongzhen was the most embarrassed. He never thought that such a situation would occur. Taoist Master Wang Zhou left him alone without saying a word. He also wanted to leave, but he had no choice but to defend Taoist Master Wang Zhou. Haha, fellow Taoist Qiu is right. Fellow Taoist Wang is indeed a little arrogant. After all, Wang Zhou was a mid-core forging realm cultivator. Not to mention, he was defeated by someone weaker than him. Zhang Feng, Li Maolin, and the others, who were about the same cultivation level as enlightened Master Wang Zhou, didn't want to fall out with him. Hence, they couldn't help but feel sorry for him. If it were them, they would have no choice but to retreat after Lu Ping suddenly comprehended a great sword technique. But they wouldn't choose to retreat like enlightened Master Wang Zhou. If that's the case, I will take my leave. Qiu Yongzhen left in a hurry. Zhang Feng and Li Maolin also had their own thoughts. They congratulated Lu Ping and the others and flew away. Xiao Xingyan smiled. This time, Lu Daoyou's reputation in the Northern Alliance is probably even greater. Lu Ping thanked him profusely and turned to invite Xiao Xingyan to Tsangling Island for a chat. However, Xiao Xingyan shook his head and said, "In addition to warning the cultivators of the Crystal Palace, I also want to inform Lu Daoyu of something. From today onwards, your Listening Wave Prefecture will officially become one of the 72 small forces under the jurisdiction of the Northern Alliance. The Northern Alliance will announce this to the public." Lu Ping was startled and said, "This has caught me off guard. The Soundwave Manor has just been established and hasn't been certified by the Elixir Association. It should only be considered an unranked faction. How did it suddenly become a small-size faction?" Qiao Xingyan laughed and said. Lu Dao, you must be joking. Which unranked faction in the Northern Alliance has the strength of the Soundwave Manor? Just the core Forging Realm Enlightened Masters, not counting my son, they have 4. Even a medium-sized faction has suffered 2 losses at your hands. It just so happened that the Shangguan family of Drum Island, which had just become a medium-sized faction, offended the Snake Demon clan of the East Sea for some reason and was slaughtered. The Shangguan family was the eyes and ears of the Central Plains cultivation world in the East Sea, so it didn't matter if they were wiped out. The number 1 faction of such a small faction had to replace the Shangguan family, so there was an empty spot in the small faction. The cultivators of Qianyuan Mountain gave this spot to the Soundwave Manor. This was also a pleasant surprise. Joining the Northern Alliance meant that there were many rights and responsibilities. However, this also meant that the Soundwave Manor would receive the protection of the Northern Alliance. Before the Soundwave Island's strength grew, the Northern Alliance's protection was still very necessary. Fortunately, he was only hiding behind the scenes in the Soundwave Island's affairs. On the surface, Hong Ying and the others were in charge. After sending off Qiao Xingyan, Qiao Weiying also left. This time, Qiao Weiying had helped him because of the meridian nourishing pill refined by Lu Ping. It could be said that this pill was more important than saving his life. Qiao Weiying had helped him recover his cultivation and quickly advance to the core forging realm. This was inseparable from the effect of the meridian nourishing pill refined by Lu Ping. The Soundwave Island had been recognized by the Northern Alliance, and became one of the 72 small factions under its jurisdiction. It could be said that it had officially gained a foothold in the fallen Mystery Land. To the east was the Zhang and Li families, while to the west was the medium-sized spirit vein on a nameless island. Across the nameless island was the Chiu family, one of the 36 families under the Crystal Palace. The Soundwave Island had originally been under the jurisdiction of the 3 factions. Now that the Soundwave Manor had taken the initiative, the Zhang and Li families acted at the same time as if they had a tacit understanding. Following the Soundwave Manor's example, they each divided 9 of the remaining 18 islands. Lu Ping had continuously refined dozens of batches of pills for the Li family, the Boudoir, and the Black Mountain Gang as thanks for their help. However, of course, the 3 families still had to provide the spiritual herbs themselves. The only thing Lu Ping could do was to follow the rules of the cultivation world and reduce the number of spiritual herbs that he kept to a minimum. Originally, these tasks were left to Yu Jiangrui. Unfortunately, Yu Jiangrui had not finished his closed-door cultivation, so Lu Ping could only refine dozens of batches of pills for the core forging realm. As for the rest of the pills for the blood condensation realm, Lu Ping really couldn't care less. Moreover, even if Yu Jiangrui became a master alchemist, his alchemy skills wouldn't be as good as Lu Ping's. It would be a waste to refine pills for the core forging realm directly. Of course, the most important reason was that Lu Ping had decided to refine the forging heart pill. As such, the process of honing his alchemy skills was indispensable. Under Lu Ping's arrangements, Songling Island and the other 9 islands concealed their strength and bided their time. They each managed their own resources and exchanged their spiritual materials and ores for spiritual herbs and magic tools from the perished secret world to increase their own strength. Everything in the Listening Wave Prefecture was gradually on the right track. Lu Ping then handed everything over to Hong Ying. He instructed Hong Ying to collect as many thousand-year-old spiritual herbs, core forging realm pill recipes, and treasures that were of utmost importance to Lu Ping. After that, Lu Ping also began his closed-door cultivation. A year later, a celestial phenomenon appeared in the sky above Listening Wave Island again. After Yibuki came out of his closed-door cultivation, the Listening Wave Prefecture gained another core forging enlightened master. However, both Hong Ying and Hong Ying knew that it would be difficult for them to advance to the core forging realm in this lifetime. However, for independent cultivators like them who did not even have a complete inheritance, being able to advance to the core forging realm was already a blessing from the heavens. Thus, they were more or less grateful for Lu Ping's help. Yu Jiangrui's advancement to the core forging realm did not produce any celestial phenomenon. He had condensed his golden core through a trick. However, when he came out of his closed-door cultivation, he saw that Hong Ying had prepared dozens of cauldrons of pills for him. Most of them were blood condensation pills, and only a small portion were core-forging pills. Yu Jiangrui's eyes twitched. A large portion of these pills are for the young master to thank the Zhang and Li clans and the Dark Mountain Gang for their help. The remaining portion is for our Listening Wave Prefecture's cultivators' cultivation expenses for this month. The young master has instructed that Mr. Yu will be in charge of this matter from now on. After Yu Jiangrui advanced to the core-forging realm, it would be easy for him to become a master alchemist. Hong Ying had no choice but to be more careful. At the same time, he was secretly proud of himself. With a master alchemist in charge, the Listening Wave Prefecture's strength would continue to increase as long as they managed it well. After the Listening Wave Prefecture established its foundation on Sangling Island, there were no movements for 3 years. Only a few months later, they sent people to occupy the portion of the Spirit Stone mine that originally belonged to the Wang clan. Other than that, there were no signs of expansion. The Zhang, Li, and Qiu clans all heaved a sigh of relief. The 2 portions of the Spirit Stone mine weren't much. In a year, the Listening Wave Prefecture would only receive about 10,000 Spirit Stones. In order to recycle the Spirit Stone mine, only about 500,000 spirit stones would be mined in a year. However, it was a small stream that flowed over a long period of time. The 2 portions of the mine were equivalent to the Listening Wave Prefecture gaining a small spirit stone mine. Many things had changed in the cultivation world in 3 years, but not much had changed in the fallen mystic land. Have you really decided not to return to the North Sea and figure out your background? Lu Ping looked at Qi Lianying. Qi Lianying's cultivation had already reached the peak of the first layer of the core forging realm 2 years ago. After 3 years of accumulation, advancing to the second layer was already a matter of time. Qi Lianying shook her head and said, I don't think so. As my cultivation has increased over the past 2 years, I can recall more and more fragments of my memories. I'm afraid that my situation isn't as simple as it seems. At the very least, the people who captured me and searched my soul are far stronger than us. If I rashly return to the North Sea to investigate this matter, I might provoke some powerful forces. Therefore, I think it's better for me to lay low for a while and wait until my cultivation is strong enough before I face this matter. Seeing that Qi Lianying had made up her mind, Lu Ping said, That's a good idea. It just so happens that the Listen Wave Prefecture needs a powerful cultivator to hold down the fort. After Hong Ying and Yi Buki advanced to the core forging realm, their potential was almost exhausted. If they don't have a great opportunity in this life, the chances of them reaching the mid-stage of the core forging realm are very slim. Therefore, there are some things that I need you to deal with. Besides, with Yu Jiangrui, your cultivation speed shouldn't be slow. Qi Lianying giggled and said, Your departure this time was very well arranged. I presume you have many backup plans. With this force to help you accumulate resources, I'm sure you will go far. I really don't know how you cultivated to actually reach the 3rd layer of the core forging realm. You didn't use any tricks, did you? A few days later, the long-distance teleportation array on the Silver Sword Island in the south of the East Sea under the jurisdiction of Skyren lit up again. Under the watchful eyes of the cultivators of Skyrend, a core forging cultivator with a blurry face calmly descended from the teleportation array. He handed a dozen mid-grade spirit stones to the cultivators of Skyrend who were guarding the teleportation array and left. 3 years had passed. Although there weren't many changes in the fallen mystic land, the situation in the East Sea had changed drastically. The confrontation between humans and demons had escalated into a large-scale conflict. Fortunately, the higher-ups of both races seemed to be controlling the scale of the conflict. Now, only cultivators below the blood condensation realm were involved in the war. Although the high-level cultivators of the 2 races fought each other, there were no life-or-death battles. Unlike the North Sea, where the sects formed an alliance to fight against the demons, the East Sea had the 5 major sects as the center. Each sect fought against the demons independently. At this time, the Silver Sword Island, which was the closest to the demons in Skyrend, had become a hunting ground for the cultivators of the two races. Lu Ping stayed in the inn he stayed at on the Silver Sword Island for a while. 3 days later, the night of the full moon would arrive. Then, he quietly made his way south to the battlefield between the humans and demons. After plotting against a few peak blood condensation realm demonic beasts, Lu Ping retracted his hand from one of the demonic beast heads. He let out a long sigh and said, "I finally found it. This soul-searching technique isn't that easy to use. Hopefully, there won't be any more accidents this time." Under the moonlight, a pair of eyes that emitted a cold light flashed with a cold killing intent from time to time. Chapter 331. Because Qi Lianying had her soul searched and lost her memories, she was very interested in secret techniques like soul searching. She had collected 5 or 6 kinds of soul searching techniques, 2 of which were exchanged for treasures of equivalent value from the Northern Alliance's secret pavilion by Hongying using Hearing Wave Prefecture's authority, as a small force in the Northern Alliance. Before Lu Ping returned to Silver Sword Island, under Qi Lianying's recommendation, he chose a soul-searching technique called Lost Dreams Soul Snatch. Although this secret technique was novel, it wasn't difficult at all. With Lu Ping's current spiritual sense, it was a piece of cake for him to practice this secret technique. Lu Ping got the result he wanted. Taking advantage of the moonlight, he headed south. Along the way, he avoided several demon cultivator patrols. At this time, Lu Ping had already penetrated deep into the demon territory. There were tens of thousands of demon clans in the East Sea, and their numbers were innumerable. However, there were 3 major clans in the East Sea. The most powerful one was the Snake Clan, represented by the Green Sea Snake. The other 2 clans were the Phoenix Clan, represented by the Fire Luan, and the Fish Clan, represented by the Kun Clan. Kong Liang was a rare genius of the Kun Clan. He was also the most radical of the younger generation of the Kun Clan. In Kong Liang's view, among the East Sea demon clans, the Kun Fish Clan was the rarest, and the Emerald Sea Spirit Snake and Fire Luan couldn't be compared to the Kun Fish Clan at all. Among the demonic cultivators of the same level, the Kun Fish Clan was often the most powerful. This was also why the Kun Fish Clan was one of the 3 most valuable royal clans in the East Sea, even though it had fewer members than a small clan in the East Sea. Kong Liang was also a famous playboy among the demon cultivators. His degree of lust could be said to be among the best among all the demon cultivators in the East Sea. However, Kong Liang himself was not a lustful person. He had never been compared to those demon cultivators who only knew how to use the shadow of their fathers to intimidate others. Otherwise, Kong Liang would not have become a famous genius among the demon cultivators. In just a few decades, his cultivation base had risen to the 3rd layer of the core forging realm, and there were few cultivators of the same level who could match him. Kong Liang's lust stemmed from his belief that one of the important factors restricting the Kun clan from becoming the overlord of the East Sea was that it was too difficult for the Kun clan to reproduce. The Kun clan might be the strongest cultivator of the East Sea, but they weren't the strongest. If the Kun clan had more members, then it wouldn't have been a dream for the Kun clan to become the true overlord of the East Sea. This time, the war between the 2 clans was about to break out. Kong Liang voluntarily applied to come to the forefront of the war between the 2 clans because he needed to hone his cultivation. At the same time, he had long coveted the beautiful female cultivators among the human cultivators. In Kong Liang's view, the reproduction rate of the human race was extremely terrifying. Perhaps the difficulty of the Kun clan in reproduction could be realized by the beautiful female cultivators of the human race. On this day, Kong Liang received a report from his subordinates that Taoist Master Suiya of the Flying Fish clan had captured a group of human cultivators. Among them were 2 human female cultivators. Taoist Master Suiya invited Kong Liang to a banquet and offered the 2 human female cultivators to him as his 53rd and 54th concubines. Naturally, Taoist Master Kong Liang was happy to go. After a demon cultivator advanced to the core forging stage, they were no different from humans. Moreover, demon cultivators were more willing to appear in human form after advancing to the core forging stage. Taoist Master Suiya, dressed in a white robe, stood on the surface of the sea. The seawater under his feet automatically flowed, and the scenery on both sides quickly passed behind him like a flashing lantern. His speed was actually not inferior to that of an ordinary cultivator using a flying escape artifact. After an unknown period of time, the shadow behind Taoist Master Suiya suddenly moved under the moonlight. Taoist Master Suiya sensed it, and turned his head to ask, "Yuing, what's the matter?" The shadow behind Taoist Master Suiya suddenly came to life and turned into a woman wearing a black veil. Only the outline of the black veil woman's outer appearance was exposed. She looked up at the sky and did not speak. Kong Liang followed the gaze of the woman in black and looked up at the sky. He saw that in the dark sky, there were 13 bright moons. In addition to the largest full moon, there were 12 smaller, full moons, around the full moon, but exuding a strange 5-colored light. They formed a circle around the real full moon, and the circle formed by these 12 small, full moons, just happened to envelop Taoist Master Suiya and the woman in black. Taoist Master Suiya's complexion changed greatly. He did not know when he had fallen into an ambush. "Which scoundrel dares to plot against your Grandpa Kong?" Although perfected Kong Liang was deep in the ambush, he was not afraid and asked loudly. The surrounding sea was silent. No one answered immortal Kong Liang's question. Only the 12 small, full moons in the sky that were emitting 5-colored rays of light became more and more dazzling. "He's stalling for time. Those 12 5-colored lights are getting closer and closer to us," the black-clothed woman reminded unhurriedly. Perfected Kong Liang could naturally tell that the person did not want to meet him at all. This was an assassination, an ambush specifically targeted at him. Taoist Master Kong Liang's face turned solemn. A gourd emitting a 7-colored halo slowly rose from his hand. The black-robed woman, Yuing, had disappeared into Taoist Master Kong Liang's body. 12 small full moons finally fell from the sky, with Taoist Master Kong Liang as the center, surrounding him within a radius of 360 feet. At this time, Taoist Master Kong Liang could clearly see that the 12 full moons that were emitting 5-colored light were actually 12 crystal-clear pearls. While each pearl was emitting 5-colored light, there were 2 dense talisman patterns flowing on the surface of the pearl. This was actually a set of magic treasures, 12 identical magic treasures. This was troublesome. If such a set of magic treasures was not controlled by several people, then the one ambushing him should at least be a cultivator at the middle stage of core forging or above. In the east and west side of the circle formed by the 12 pearls, 2 bright lights suddenly burst out at the same time. Taoist Master Kong Liang's complexion suddenly changed. "Are you asking for help?" An ethereal voice slowly came over. "Who are you? You actually dare to ambush this Taoist. You really don't put my Kun clan in your eyes." There was once again no sound from the sea, and the surrounding sea breeze also became silent. Taoist Master Kong Liang's face was as calm as water. He looked around and suddenly reached out to the sky. Then he slashed down. A thunderbolt flashed, and with a loud explosion, it smashed into one of the pearls. "In water lightning? As expected of the Kun clan, you actually cultivated such a small spell." The ethereal voice from before sounded again, but there was a trace of surprise in its tone. In the world of cultivation, many spells had their own merits. Just like the attack power of sword cultivators was known as the number 1 in the world of cultivation, thunder spells were also known as the number 1 in destructive power. However, the Tao of Thunder was extremely difficult to achieve. Forcefully cultivating it would mostly harm oneself and others, especially the great thunder divine art. Even after hundreds or thousands of years, there might not be a single person who could successfully cultivate it. On the contrary, the number of cultivators who died cultivating this divine art was uncountable. It was precisely because the lightning god art was so hard to cultivate that people tried to use external forces to master the lightning god art. This way, the cultivation of the lightning god art was a lot easier, but its power was also greatly reduced, and it could only be used as a minor god art. This sunflower watering lightning was one of the lightning minor divine abilities, and the cultivation of this minor divine ability required the sunflower water essence, a heaven and earth wonder. Just as the water lightning exploded, the leisurely voice came again. Suppressing mountain. When the entire water lightning struck the pearls, it seemed to be blocked and dissolved in the air by a strong and unshakable force. The water lightning did not have the slightest effect on the pearls. Taoist Master Kong Liang's face became more and more gloomy. He stretched out his hand and made a series of hand signs. 3 lightning struck the 12 pearls in a row. At the same time, he pointed at the colorful gourd above his head. A gust of wind, a stream of blue water, a crimson flame, a cloud of white cold mist, and a golden flying sword, 5 treasures shot out from the gourd one after another. A feather fan suddenly appeared in Taoist Master Kong Liang's hand, and he fanned at the 5 treasures. With the help of the feather fan, the gust of wind immediately rolled up a huge wave on the surface of the sea and pounced in one direction. The blue water was blown away by the feather fan, and a strange pulling force was produced in the 12 pearls, as though it was going to tear the formation formed by the 12 pearls. The wind fueled the fire, and with the help of the feather fan, the crimson flame suddenly turned into a wave of fire and burned toward one of the pearls. The cloud of cold mist disappeared after being fanned by the feather fan, but next to another pearl, the seawater below quickly froze, and even the space around the pearl was frozen. With the help of the feather fan, the golden flying sword turned into a golden light and directly slashed toward one of the pearls. It was the most overbearing and direct attack. Taoist Master Kong Liang used all his means in a short time, and each of his attacks was extremely powerful, comparable to ordinary magical power. He once used this method to kill a 5th-layer core forging cultivator with his 3rd-layer core forging cultivation, which shocked his peers in the demon race and established his name as a genius among them. In the cultivation world, whether it was the human race or the demon race, geniuses were never the ones who cultivated the fastest, but the ones who were the strongest, and Taoist Master Kong Liang was a well-deserved genius. In Taoist Master Kong Liang's opinion, even if his all-out attack could not destroy the formation, it could still create a gap in the formation and allow him to escape. As long as he could escape, this place would not be his. With his status in the Kun clan, he would only need a moment to gather about 10 core forging enlightened masters. At that time, he would make sure that the group of bastards who ambushed him would die without a burial place. However, something that terrified Taoist Master Kong Liang finally happened. Suddenly, a shout came from the night sky. Dehai! The 12 pearls suddenly glowed with endless light, and the 3 water thunder disappeared in the light. The gust of wind stopped, and the flame was annihilated. The blue water suddenly lost its connection with Taoist Master Kong Liang, and the white cold mist seemed to dissipate, while the golden flying sword remained motionless in the air. Chapter 332. Taoist Master Kong Liang's full-strength attack was enough to kill a 5th-level core forging cultivator, but it was so easily resolved. Taoist Master Kong Liang knew that his attack was not something an ordinary person could easily withstand. To be able to resolve his attack so easily, the person was definitely not someone he could fight against. Taoist Master Kong Liang was no longer in a hurry to escape. He wanted to know who was ambushing him. Taoist Master Kong Liang rose into the air, and the colorful gourd above his head suddenly spewed out a stream of earthy yellow quicksand. The quicksand was like smoke hanging down from the top of his head, protecting him in the middle. Taoist Master Kong Liang knew that the person who ambushed him was in the night sky above his head. Although there were only a few voices just now, Taoist Master Kong Liang could still sense that the voice came from above the 12 pearls. Just as Taoist Master Kong Liang slowly rose up, the voice suddenly came from the night sky again. God strike! The 12 pearls that surrounded Taoist Master Kong Liang suddenly moved. The pearls left behind a five-colored afterimage in the night sky at a speed that cultivators could not measure. They flew in a seemingly disorderly manner and attacked Taoist Master Kong Liang from all directions. Taoist Master Kong Liang's expression changed greatly, but he did not panic. As soon as the 12 pearls dissolved his strongest attack, Taoist Master Kong Liang was already aware that he was going to die. The change in his expression could only be his instinctive fear of death. The colorful gourd once again spat out the previous thing, intending to make a final resistance. However, the wall of fire and the wind shield could not stop the piercing of the pearls. The tearing force of the deep blue magnetic water was negligible to the entire formation. The white cold fog had just formed a wall of ice around Reverend Kong Liang when it was shattered by the piercing pearls. The golden flying sword was hit by 3 pearls in a row, and the whole sword was wailing incessantly. Taoist Master Kong Liang once again used a defensive magic weapon to block in front of him, but there were dozens of consecutive explosions. The magic weapon was instantly hit by the pearls from dozens of different directions, and suddenly turned into fragments and fell into the sea. The earthy yellow light hanging down from the gourd merged with Taoist Master Kong Liang's small protective magical power, barely blocking the impact of the pearls for a moment. The yellow protective aura shield had long been riddled with holes, and a trace of blood constantly flowed out from the corner of Taoist Master Kong Liang's mouth. At this moment, a strange fluctuation suddenly flashed in the dark night sky, and the shadow behind immortal Kong Liang seemed to fade a lot. Hee, I've been waiting for you! 2 sparkling jade bracelets suddenly appeared in the sky. One of them was surrounded by a dense mist, and the water vapor on the surface of the sea quickly gathered around the jade bracelet. The other one suddenly ignited with a black flame, as if the night sky was burning. A hollow circular icicle surrounded Lu Ping. A black shadow suddenly appeared in front of Lu Ping, but it was separated by the icicle. Although the daggers in the black shadow's hands sank into the icicle, they did not penetrate the icicle. At this moment, the black poisonous fire swept down, and the black shadow hurriedly retreated. However, the surface of the icicle was filled with cold air, and the pair of daggers were frozen in the icicle. The black shadow had no choice but to give up the daggers, but the black poisonous fire suddenly soared. A muffled sound came, with a hint of softness. The back of the black shadow had been licked by the black prison poisonous fire. Although the black shadow's body also lit up with protective aura shield, the fire poison still followed the eruption of the black shadow's true essence. However, after escaping the burning of the black prison poisonous fire, the black shadow turned back and once again rushed towards Lu Ping. At this time, Lu Ping was shocked by the black shadow. At this time, the black shadow's aura was extremely tyrannical and explosive, and the true essence around its body was fluctuating. Looking at the black shadow's hazy face that revealed a trace of resolute temperament, Lu Ping was shocked. The other party was going to self-destruct his golden core. Yuyin, don't! Taoist Master Kong Liang shouted behind him, but at this time, it was too late for him to stop the black shadow from self-destructing. You go quickly! The black shadow cultivator left this last sentence, and rushed in the direction of Lu Ping with a resolute face. Taoist Master Kong Liang knew that the black shadow wanted him to take advantage of the impact of his self-destruction on the array to rush out with all his strength. Taoist Master Kong Liang screamed wildly, and his expression was already extremely crazy. The treasure in the colorful gourd spewed out again, but this time it rushed in the same direction. At the same time, Taoist Master Kong Liang jumped into the sea, and a huge Kuan fish that was dozens of feet in size, like a coral reef, emerged from the water. After the attack of the gourd, it desperately rushed out of the array. Want to leave? It's not that easy! A golden ray of light cut through the pitch-black night sky, as if it wanted to swallow the entire night into this golden crack. Great swordsmanship! The black shadow's shrill cries came to an abrupt end with a strong sense of unwillingness. After shattering his golden core, the black shadow, who had filled his blood with all of his true essence, suddenly split into 2 halves from head to toe like a deflated balloon, and fell into the sea. The gentian array was intact. No! Taoist Master Kong Liang, who had transformed into a demon body, looked at the fallen black shadow with deep sadness and despair. The attack of the colorful gourd did not have the slightest impact on the 12 gentian array, but the huge body of the Kuan fish had hit the entire array and made it shake. Lu Ping opened his hands and clenched them tightly. The 12 gentian beads continued to launch. God strike. The huge Kuan fish was instantly pierced with dozens of bowl-sized holes. Blood spurted from the wounds for dozens of feet. The entire sea was dyed bright red by the blood of the Kuan fish. The entire life of the Kuan fish seemed to be drained away with the blood that spurted out. Lu Ping waved his sword and the huge Kuan fish was suddenly cut into two. A huge golden core inside suddenly collapsed and weathered in the air. A thick suffocating aura filled the array, but it quickly dissipated between heaven and earth. Obviously, this Taoist Master Kong Liang knew that Lu Ping would not let him go. He did not even have the thought of letting the golden core escape and reincarnate. Lu Ping shook his head with pity. He moved the entire huge Kuan fish into the golden house and the body of the shadow fish demon named Moon Shadow. At the same time, he put the blood of the 2 demon beasts in a jade crystal bottle. These were all treasures. Lu Ping cleaned up the battlefield at an extremely fast speed. His body quickly turned into a stream of water and quietly left the scene of the battle. The last impact of Taoist Master Kong Liang's Kuan fish had shaken the 12 gentian array. The huge aura fluctuation would definitely alert the nearby demon beasts. Lu Ping had to quickly leave the demon territory before the demon beasts realized that Taoist Master Kong Liang had fallen. Lu Ping knew what it meant for a core forging stage Kuan fish to be killed in the demon race. Not to mention, this Kuan fish seemed to be quite special. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea after Lu Ping left, the nearby demon beasts came to investigate. However, when they saw that the spiritual energy fluctuations on the surface of the sea had already calmed down, they only knew that there had been a great battle. However, no one knew the outcome of the battle. Among the demon beasts that rushed over was a black-robed man with a mouth full of white teeth. He was Taoist Master Suiya, who had invited Taoist Master Kong Liang to the banquet tonight. After Taoist Master Suiya checked the surrounding situation, he did not return to his cave residence like the other cultivators. Instead, he flew towards Taoist Master Kong Liang's cave residence with a trace of anxiety. Lu Ping sneaked all the way, avoiding the demon beast patrols. After leaving the demon race's sea area, he immediately flew towards Silver Sword Island at full speed. Finally, he returned to Silver Sword Island before dawn. Rainbow gourd, magic treasure feather fan, a jar of weak water, a bottle of spirit water, several jade slips, a variety of medicinal pills, spirit stones, and spirit materials. Lu Ping rummaged through Taoist Master Kong Liang's storage artifact, but he did not find what he wanted. He inevitably felt a little depressed. He had risked his life to sneak into the demon race's sea area and assassinate Taoist Master Kong Liang. Now that he had caused such a disaster, he did not get what he wanted. Lu Ping smiled bitterly. He remembered that there was still a core forging stage Shadow Fish Demon storage artifact that he had not searched. The Shadow Fish Demon seemed to be Taoist Master Kong Liang's bodyguard. In the end, it did not hesitate to self-destruct to create an opportunity for Taoist Master Kong Liang to escape. The items in the Shadow Fish Demon's storage artifact were obviously a grade lower than Taoist Master Kong Liang's collection. In addition to a pair of magic treasure daggers, there was only the black muslin wrapped around her body. It seemed to be a special magic treasure for concealment. Unfortunately, it was cut in half by Lu Ping's Sea of All Rivers sword art along with her clothes. In addition, there was a stone jar in the Shadow Fish Demon's storage artifact. After opening it, there was a jar of liquid that resembled a fragrant wine. Lu Ping's face was filled with joy. Lu Ping's action this time was originally just in case. He did not expect that he would really find this thing. Bejeweled nectar clear water. In Lu Ping's opinion, after Taoist Master Kong Liang obtained this heaven and earth mysterious treasure, he would definitely refine his eyes. He did not expect that not only did Taoist Master Kong Liang not use this heaven and earth mysterious treasure, but he also gave it to the Shadow Fish Demon. At this time, Lu Ping did not think about why the Shadow Fish Demon did not use this heaven and earth mysterious treasure to purify his eyes. His 3 pure true pupils, small magical ability had already condensed 2 heaven and earth mysterious treasure, the heaven and earth mysterious treasure. The heaven and earth mysterious treasure were most compatible with the heaven and earth mysterious treasure. After condensing the small magical ability, it would make the small magical ability even more mysterious. This was also the reason why Lu Ping took the risk to kill Taoist Master Kong Liang. Last time, after searching for the heaven and earth mysterious treasure with Fairy Sun, Lu Ping set his sights on this Kun Fish Demon. At that time, the island they were searching for was occupied by Taoist Master Kong Liang. Unfortunately, at that time, Lu Ping's cultivation was not enough, and he was not the Kun Fish Demon's opponent. This time, Lu Ping used the Heart Forging Pellet to raise his cultivation base to the 3rd layer Core Forging realm. After 3 years of closed-door cultivation, he completely consolidated his cultivation base and condensed the 2nd seal in his 12 origin chin beads. Only then did he make up his mind to take the risk to kill the monster Kun Fish. After all, whether it was the bejeweled nectar or the jade nectar, they were both extraordinary treasures that could only be found by chance. So long as there was a chance, Lu Ping wouldn't let it go. Chapter 333. In all fairness, Taoist Master Kong Liang could be said to be the most tyrannical cultivator Lu Ping had ever encountered. Not to mention, he had the Shadow Fish Demon on his side. Unfortunately, he had encountered Lu Ping, who had laid out the 12 Genshin Grand Formation. Taoist Master Kong Liang could only welcome the fate of death. After obtaining the wine, Lu Ping's cultivation of a minor magical ability was in sight. Only then did he turn around and carefully examine his gains from the battle. Taoist Master Kong Liang was undoubtedly a wealthy person. Lu Ping's raid this time was like robbing a human-shaped treasure house. Taoist Master Kong Liang's feather fan was just an ordinary magic weapon, but Lu Ping was quite happy to hold it in his hands. In the hands of his 2 alchemy boy puppets, the medicine boy already had a magic weapon, the medicine pounding pestle. Although the fire boy had a magic weapon that was used to light the fire, it was undoubtedly far inferior to this magic weapon feather fan. After Lu Ping became a Grandmaster Alchemist, he had a higher demand for spirit herbs when he was concocting Core Forging realm medicinal pellets. In order to maximize the effectiveness of each spirit herb, the role of the herb pounding boy and the fire boy became more and more important. Therefore, the herb pounding pestle and feather fan also played an important role in the process of concocting medicinal pellets. However, what made Lu Ping even more surprised were the 2 kinds of spirit water. One was placed in a stone altar. It was a kind of heaven and earth strange 3,000 week water. This kind of heaven and earth strange water's overbearing nature was comparable to the Kui water essence that Lu Ping had used before. It was just right for Lu Ping to continue to strengthen his protective aura qi. The other kind was the more precious earth-level low-tier heaven and earth spirit water, the azure wave water. This was the 6th kind of heaven and earth spirit water that Lu Ping had obtained, and it was also the 3rd kind of water attribute heaven and earth spirit water. Thinking about Taoist Master Kong Liang's peak 3rd layer core forging stage cultivation, this kind of heaven and earth spirit water was prepared for him to advance to the mid-core forging stage, but now it was Lu Ping's good fortune. Of course, the most important thing was Immortal Kong Liang's natal magic treasure, which was the colorful gourd. It was also a magic treasure that made Lu Ping quite curious. The entire gourd was clearly made from a top-grade spirit material. Even though its quality couldn't compare to that of a 9th-tier white jade lotus, it was not inferior to a 3rd-tier spirit material that had lost its spiritual nature. There were already 3 treasures condensed within the gourd, and there were 6 types of natural treasures of different attributes, namely metal, water, fire, earth, ice, and wind. Under the effects of the gourd, each of these natural treasures could be transformed into a type of powerful spell. In particular, the gourd contained 3 types of natural oddities of the water attribute, and it had already begun to brew into a minor magical power. It was the Een thunder of Een water that Lu Ping had seen before. Although he didn't have as many natural treasures of other attributes as he did with the water attribute natural treasures, under the effect of the gourd, although it was extremely difficult to compare to the Een aqua Een thunder, its power was still quite mysterious. Lu Ping looked at the gourd in his hand and frowned as he tried to recall something. He seemed to have heard of this gourd somewhere before. Could it be? The next moment, Lu Ping looked at the colorful gourd in front of him in shock. Could it be the 7 treasure thunder gourd? According to legend, tens of thousands of years ago, among the 7th patriarch, Peng Laozu, who was the most powerful, had such a 7 treasure thunder gourd. Peng Laozu used the 7 treasure thunder gourd to travel in every corner of this world. The lightning gourd spat out 7 types of divine lightning of the metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, and ice. Each type of divine lightning was a great magical power that blew up this chaotic world. Finally, the 7 types of divine lightning combined into one, and Peng Laozu summoned an even more powerful supreme magical power of the pure thunder attribute from the lightning gourd. Finally, he cleared this world, and Peng Laozu used the 7 treasure thunder gourd and his supreme cultivation to establish himself as the number 1 of the 7th patriarch. The 7 treasure thunder gourd in Lu Ping's hand was, of course, not the 7 treasure thunder gourd. However, it was clear that Reverend Kong Liang was copying Peng Laozu's 7 treasure thunder gourd. In the 7 treasure thunder gourd, when 3 types of extraordinary items of each attribute were collected, and the gourd itself condensed 3 or more treasure restrictions, it would summon a type of Een thunder from the gourd. Its power was comparable to a minor magical power. When the gourd itself had 7 treasure restrictions and 7 types of extraordinary items of a certain attribute, it would release divine lightning of that attribute under the effect of the lightning gourd, and its power would reach the level of a great magical power. The higher the quality of the thunder gourd, the more treasure restrictions it had refined, and the more extraordinary items it could hold. When the thunder gourd condensed 9 treasure restrictions to perfection, or even higher, and had 7 types of extraordinary items of each attribute, it would be possible to summon 7 types of divine lightnings from the thunder gourd. As for the highest level of 7 lightnings as one, summoning a supreme divine lightnings, no one in the cultivation world had been able to do so since Peng Laozu. In fact, in the cultivation world, there were many cultivators who imitated the 7 treasures thunder calabash. However, not to mention the supreme divine thunder, there were almost no divine thunders that could gather all 7 great divine thunders. Whether it was the quality of the calabash itself or the 49 heavenly oddities, it was not something that a cultivator could collect in their lifetime. Moreover, a treasure like the 7 treasures thunder calabash could not be passed down after attaining a great divine ability. After the cultivator died, the 7 treasures thunder calabash itself would also disintegrate. It could not be passed down like ordinary magic treasures. Only by gathering the power of several generations could the 7 treasures thunder calabash be completed. But even so, there were often cultivators in the cultivation world who could successfully cultivate 1 or 2 types of divine lightnings of the divine lightnings of the 7 treasure thunder gourd, making a great name for themselves in the cultivation world. The 7-colored gourd in Lu Ping's hand was clearly the magic treasure that Taoist Kong Liang used to cultivate according to the 7 treasure thunder gourd. It seemed that Taoist Kong Liang was really ambitious to try to complete such a treasure. But now Lu Ping benefited from it. However, Lu Ping would not want to complete the 7 treasure thunder gourd just because he obtained this treasure. Although the 7 treasure thunder gourd was powerful, it was extremely difficult to complete. Lu Ping did not want to waste his cultivation time looking for natural oddities all over the world. There were 49 types of natural oddities. Moreover, they were all different types, and there were many requirements for the natural oddities themselves. For example, the bejeweled nectar was also a natural oddities of water attribute, but it was not suitable to be used to condense the 7 treasure thunder gourd. This was also the reason why Taoist Kong Liang gave this treasure to his personal guard, the shadow fish demon. Lu Ping thought about it carefully. Although he did not value the 7 treasure thunder gourd, it was too famous in the cultivation world. So, he also took a drop of his heart's blood and carefully refined it. The 7 treasure thunder gourd disappeared in front of Lu Ping in a flash. When it reappeared, it was already in the core space of Lu Ping. The appearance of the 7 treasure thunder gourd caused the core space to shake again. The Najuan cauldron, which was originally revolving around the golden core outside the 12 gentian pearls, was instantly pushed to the 3rd layer by the 7 treasure thunder gourd. The golden scale sword, on the other hand, was once again far away from the golden core and went to the 4th layer. At this time, Lu Ping had already realized that he had probably killed a very powerful existence in the demon race. There was always a thought in his mind that urged him to leave as soon as possible. However, he had agreed to meet Reverend Liang Xianfeng here and return to the North Sea together, so he could not leave first. Moreover, the Silver Sword Island was the 3rd largest island in Skyrend and the front line of Skyrend's resistance against the demon race. It was bound to be guarded by Fa Xiang, Laozu. Lu Ping also did not believe that the demon race could directly break through the Silver Sword Island. Suppressing his excitement, Lu Ping finished looking through the remaining dozen or so jade slips. Lu Ping happily picked out 2 jade slips with water attribute restrictions, one for attack and one for defense. Lu Ping's original 2 water attribute restrictions were of the attack attribute. They had already been condensed by Lu Ping into the gentian pearls and the golden scale sword. Now, the golden scale sword was already a magic treasure with 3 restrictions, while the gentian pearls only had 2. Now that Lu Ping had one more in his hand, it could be considered as a timely help. As for the other defensive restriction, Lu Ping had other plans. He currently did not have a defensive magic treasure. The ice and fire rings were both offensive and defensive magic treasures, but they could only be used by Lu Ping as a defensive magic treasure when he ambushed Reverend Kong Liang. The 12 gentian formation was indeed powerful, but the Shadowfish Demon's final attack had also reminded Lu Ping that the 12 gentian formation was not yet complete. This restriction was the opportunity that Lu Ping was going to use to make up for the last loophole in the 12 gentian formation. The 12 gentian formation diagram. The 12 gentian formation was the failing sex life-bonded formation that had been passed down for tens of thousands of years. How could it not be both offensive and defensive? The gentian formation's life-bonded formation diagram was the best defensive magic treasure for a cultivator. At the same time, the completion of the life-bonded formation diagram would also increase the power of the gentian formation to a higher level. However, Lu Ping had yet to refine the gentian formation's life-bonded formation diagram. Firstly, he did not have a suitable restriction treasure. Secondly, the 12 gentian pearls had already consumed an enormous amount of Jinyuan. If he had a formation diagram, it would be even more difficult for Lu Ping to use his life-bonded magic treasure. In addition, Lu Ping was not good at refining magic treasures. Even though Lu Ping had already decided on a treasure to refine the life-bonded magic treasure, he had no choice but to delay the completion of the life-bonded magic treasure. Now, it seemed that refining the life-bonded magic treasure could not be delayed any longer. With the pearls and jade in front of him, the Shadowfish Demon's daggers did not look too conspicuous. Lu Ping organized the spirit herbs, materials, and spirit stones in the 2's storage treasures. He found 8 3,000-year spirit herbs, a water attribute 2nd grade spirit material, and a wind attribute 2nd grade spirit material. He also found more than 20 high-grade spirit stones. In the distant depths of the Demon Clan Sea region, just as immortal Kong Liang fell, an angry roar came from the depths of the sea and rushed to the 9 heavens. Because of this roar, the calm sea surface turned into a monstrous tsunami. A dark blue streak of light was the first to disappear into the horizon. A moment later, several light blue streaks of light chased after the first streak of light. Lu Ping had already stayed on Silver Sword Island for 3 days. During these 3 days, he used the bejeweled nectar to cleanse his eyes while waiting for Taoist Liang Xuanfeng's arrival. On this day, Lu Ping was cultivating the tripure true eyes in the cultivation room when a heaven-shaking roar suddenly came from outside Silver Sword Island. The roar contained anger and pressure, forcing all the cultivators on the island to stop their cultivation. Many cultivators lost control of their Jinyuan because it was too sudden, resulting in internal injuries. When Lu Ping came out of his cave residence, he saw a soul-stirring scene. A tsunami the size of a mountain surged from the distant sea. The cultivators of Silver Sword Island cried out in alarm as it crashed towards the island. The huge wave was enough to completely submerge the island, which had a circumference of more than 250 kilometers. Chapter 334. Such a powerful technique must have come from the hands of a Dharma adept. Lu Ping couldn't help but gulp when he saw the waves crashing down on the island. Was this the might of Dharma idol Laozu? As the many cultivators on Silver Sword Island were in a state of panic, a large, colorful barrier suddenly appeared in the sky above Silver Sword Island to envelop the entire island. It's the island's grand formation! The island's grand formation has been activated! The tens of thousands of cultivators on the island immediately calmed down when the grand formation was activated. Suddenly, a flash of light that caused the hearts of all the cultivators on Silver Sword Island to tremble flashed out. It was as though the Milky Way was flowing in reverse. The massive wave of seawater that charged into the 9 heavens collapsed like a giant that had been cleaved in half. Only a portion of the massive amount of seawater smashed against the surface of the ocean. Due to the impact of the falling seawater, the entire island's great array shook a few times. The hearts of the cultivators on Silver Sword Island twitched as the great array shook. Only when the great array was unscathed did they calm down. Only then did everyone recall the terrifying white light that had just flashed past, but they had no recollection of it. Only Lu Ping recalled the white light with a look of shock. Due to his spiritual sense being far superior to everyone else's, coupled with the power of Lu Ping's 3 pure eyes, Lu Ping was able to capture the essence of the white light the moment it appeared. It was a streak of sword light, and a great swordsmanship art at that. There weren't any earth-shattering phenomena when it was used, but it was silent and fast to the extreme. The others couldn't capture it with their spiritual sense, and they only felt their blood run cold in the blink of an eye. The sword seemed to split the heavens with a single slash. Splitting the heavens with a single slash was the true essence of Skyrend. This was Skyrend's true great swordsmanship art. If it wasn't for Lu Ping's deep attainments in swordsmanship, even he wouldn't have been able to judge the white light. The towering waves outside the island were clearly a great art as well, but they were destroyed by the white light. Even though the waves still crashed into the island's grand formation, their power had been greatly reduced, and they no longer posed a threat to the formation. After the massive wave receded, the cultivators who had just calmed down exclaimed once more. Far away in the distance, where the sky and the water met, a silver line appeared once more. As the silver line moved forward, another massive wave gradually took shape. Unquestionably, it was still moving forward towards Silver Sword Island. When the wave approached, a cultivator pointed at it and shouted, "Look, there are cultivators rapidly flying in front of the wave." Everyone looked into the distance and saw that there were 8 or 9 core forging cultivators desperately flying forward, as if there was a terrifying monster chasing after them. As the wave drew closer and closer, the cultivator at the back suddenly attacked the cultivator in front of him. The cultivator in front of him was caught off guard. Although he blocked the attack, he couldn't help but stop himself. The last cultivator took advantage of the opportunity to overtake him. By the time the cultivator who had stopped moving, it was already too late. A water arm abruptly emerged from the waves to entangle the cultivator. Without being able to put up any resistance, the cultivator was dragged into the ocean waters. Lu Ping's eyes lit up. With the three pure eyes, he could clearly see that the one flying in the middle was Taoist Master Liang Xianfeng. Although enlightened Master Liang Xianfeng was also in a sorry state, he wasn't injured at all. Lu Ping let out a long sigh of relief. Then, he muttered to himself, with enlightened Master Liang Xuanfeng's cultivation base and wind elemental spells, how could he only be in the middle of the core forging realm cultivators? At this moment, the tide caught up again. The cultivator who had plotted against one of the cultivators summoned his own magic treasure. Just as he was about to use the same trick, he saw the two enlightened masters flying in front of him suddenly turn around and attack the cultivator with their magic treasures. The cultivator clearly didn't expect this to happen. He could only let out a miserable cry before he was swept away by the wave. The cultivators on Silver Sword Island were speechless and looked at each other. In a moment of life and death, the ugliness of human nature began to show itself without the slightest scruple. At this moment, only 7 cultivators were left on the sea, flying towards Silver Sword Island. Kong Shang Laozu, do you really think there's no one in Skyrand? A dignified and heavy voice resounded, and its tone contained a trace of anger that couldn't be concealed. It's Wondrous Sword Laozu. That's right. With Wondrous Sword Laozu, Silver Sword Island is impregnable. The 7 core forging cultivators were overjoyed when they heard Wondrous Sword Laozu's words. They flew even faster towards Silver Sword Island. Taoist Master Liang Xianfeng was still in the middle of the group. A rumbling voice seemed to come from the bottom of the sea, but also from the heavens and earth. Wondrous sword, hand over the murderer of my beloved grandson, or I, Kong Shang, will make your Silver Sword Island sink into the sea forever. These humans' minor repairs are just interest collected by the old man. A sigh rang out as Wondrous Sword Laozu's voice rang out again. This time, it was directed at the 7 fleeing cultivators. Fellow Taoists, Silver Sword Island's defensive array has been activated. The old man will hold them off for a moment. You all should quickly run elsewhere. Silver Sword Island's defensive array had been activated and the Yao cultivators were on the verge of attacking the island. Clearly, Wondrous Sword Laozu would not give the Yao cultivators an opportunity to attack and put Silver Sword Island in danger just because of these 7 cultivators. Hearing that, the faces of the 7 fleeing cultivators revealed looks of despair. However, 4 of them had already flown towards one side of Silver Sword Island. The other 3, including Taoist Master Liang Xianfeng, continued flying towards Silver Sword Island. After a sigh, a white sword beam streaked across the surface of the sea once more. This time, the cultivators from Silver Sword Island were finally able to see that the white sword beam was actually a sword beam. The deep ocean was seemingly cleaved apart by the sword beam, and the surging ocean tide immediately fell into the gap created by the sword beam, pausing for a moment. The cultivators from Silver Sword Island looked at the cultivators who were still flying towards Silver Sword Island with pity on their faces. Clearly, Skyrand would not open up the passageway to the island for the sake of the 3 cultivators. As for the 4 cultivators who were flying in other directions, they would not necessarily be able to escape the besiegement of the Yao cultivators. Thus, Wondrous Sword Laozu was clearly doing his best and leaving it to fate. After buying them some time, Wondrous Sword Laozu stopped attacking. After breaking free from the obstruction created by Wondrous Sword Laozu's sword technique, the ocean tide rapidly surged forward once more. Additionally, the ocean tide rose higher and higher, seemingly having regained the power of the first wave. Suddenly, 3 hands made from essence energy shot out from the ocean tide to grab the 3 cultivators who were flying towards Silver Sword Island. Finally, Dharma Idol Laozu took action. Right at this moment, Reverend Liang Xianfeng, who had been advancing side by side, suddenly made a move and shot out a green wind wheel behind him. The flowing cloud boat appeared beneath his feet, and a green stream of air swirled around the boat. At the same time, he made hundreds of different hand seals with both hands. The hand made from essence energy, which was moving towards Sage Liang Xianfeng, collided against the cyan-colored wind wheel. Before the wind wheel dissipated away, the cultivators from Silver Sword Island gaped as it sliced off 1/3 of the hand made from essence energy. That was Dharma Idol Laozu's attack. Clearly, Laozu, who was hiding somewhere, did not expect a core forging stage cultivator to be able to unravel his attack. 1/3 of the hand that was sliced off by the wind wheel was restored. Additionally, it appeared even more powerful. At the same time, the other 2 hands made from essence energy sped up to grab the other 2 cultivators. Suddenly, Sage Liang Xuanfeng's aura surged. Only then did the cultivators from Silver Sword Island realize that there was a level 9 core forging stage expert hidden amongst the fleeing cultivators. It would be a pity for a cultivator who was only 1 step away from the Dharma Idol stage to die here. Sage Liang Xuanfeng's entire body transformed into a gigantic wind wheel that suddenly overtook the other 2 cultivators. As the cultivators from Silver Sword Island cried out in alarm, they charged towards the island's protective array. Naturally, Lu Ping could tell that enlightened Master Liang Xianfeng was planning to break through the island's protective array formation. Enlightened Master Liang Xianfeng was passionate about traveling the world and exploring ruins and cave dwelling. Thus, he was very experienced in breaking through the island's protective array formation. Although the Silver Sword Island's protective array formation was guarded by an avatar great ancestor, enlightened Master Liang Xianfeng still wanted to take a gamble. If he escaped in another direction, with his 9th layer core forging realm cultivation base, he would only attract the pursuit of the monster cultivator grand ancestor. Just as everyone watched Liang Xianfeng crash into the island's protective formation, a golden sword light suddenly erupted from the Silver Sword Island, bringing with it an indomitable aura as it slashed towards the formation that Liang Xianfeng was crashing into. For a moment, the flying swords and magic treasures in the hands of the cultivators on Silver Sword Island trembled. Many people exclaimed, "Great sword art! It's another great sword art! He's receiving the cultivator outside the island. Are they accomplices?" As the cultivators on Silver Sword Island exclaimed, Sage Liang Xuanfeng's gale and Lu Ping's 100 rivers flow into the sea struck the same spot on the island's protective array at the same time. Amidst the deafening rumble, Lu Ping's golden scales sword only pierced through the island's protective array formation's tip. Meanwhile, enlightened Master Liang Xuanfeng's hundreds of hand seals flowed through the sword tip and into the array formation. In the blink of an eye, the hole in the array formation was torn to a size big enough for a person to pass through. Sage Liang Xianfeng leaped into the array and waved his hand to disperse the dermic powers of the hundreds of hand seals. The hole in the island's protective array rapidly closed, and the hand seals behind him followed closely. However, the multicolored color on the island's protective array suddenly deepened. The hand seals bombarded it, causing the entire array to shake once more. However, the array itself remained unscathed. Only then did Lu Ping realize that Silver Sword Island's Fa Xiang, Laozu, had probably held back. Otherwise, the island's protective array would have been able to withstand Kong Shang's attack and come out unscathed. If Laozu had made up his mind not to give Sage Liang Xianfeng a chance, even if Lu Ping and Sage Liang Xianfeng worked together, they wouldn't have been able to break the island's protective array. At that moment, 2 more miserable cries came from outside the array. The 2 cultivators who had fled to Silver Sword Island with Sage Liang Xianfeng had died. A cold snort came from the center of Silver Sword Island. Sage Liang Xianfeng swayed while Lu Ping's face paled. He felt a splitting headache and nearly fell to the ground. Sage Liang Xianfeng extended his hand and bowed towards the center of Silver Sword Island. "Thank you for showing mercy, Senior." Lu Ping thanked him as well. The 2 ignored the surprised gazes of the cultivators on the island and hurried towards Silver Sword Island. Chapter 335. Uncle Master, where are we going? Lu Ping followed perfected Liang Xianfeng as they sprinted towards the center of Silver Sword Island. "We're leaving Silver Sword Island," Perfected Liang Xianfeng did not slow down even after saying those words. However, he still maintained a calm expression that no one could tell that he was anxious. Lu Ping hesitated. Uncle Master, I don't think it's appropriate for us to leave just like that. Perfected Liang Xianfeng turned to look at Lu Ping and sighed. Kongshan Laozu is just a cover. I'm afraid Silver Sword Island won't be able to hold on much longer. We have to leave before the teleportation formation is sealed. If the demons launch a full-scale attack, Silver Sword Island will seal the teleportation formation for the sake of a common enemy, allowing entry but not exit. Lu Ping took a deep breath and whispered, "Then why don't we tell the cultivators on Silver Sword Island? If the island falls, how many cultivators will survive?" Perfected Liang Xianfeng could not help but scold. "How many people will believe you? Silver Sword Island is one of the 3 major islands of Skyrend. Skyrend will definitely defend it to the death unless it's absolutely necessary. The moment you say that, the cultivators of Skyrend will first punish you for disturbing the morale of the army." Lu Ping was stunned and did not say anything else. Skyrend might know that the demons were launching a full-scale attack, but they did not spread the news. Lu Ping's heart turned cold. Skyrend wants to use all the cultivators on Silver Sword Island to fight against the demons. Even if they can't defend Silver Sword Island, they'll deal a heavy blow to the demons. As expected, Patriarch Kong Shang's attack had taken up too much of Patriarch Wondrous Sword's attention. By the time the 2 of them arrived at Silver Sword Island's teleportation array, it was still open. On the contrary, many cultivators had heard that the Yao race was besieging the island and rushed over to help. Enlightened Master Liang Xianfeng and Lu Ping looked at each other. It was too late for them to use the long-distance teleportation array as it would take too long. Not only did they have to get permission from the Silver Sword Island cultivators, but they also had to inform the cultivators at the destination beforehand. But now, the Silver Sword Island was likely to close the teleportation array soon. To Golden Sword Island! Sage Liang Xianfeng handed a bag of spirit stones to the cultivator from Sky Fisher Sword faction, and the 2 of them stood on the teleportation array. Soon, the teleportation array lit up and a group of cultivators from Sky Fisher Sword faction, each carrying a great sword on their back, walked towards the teleportation array. The 3 enlightened masters in the lead said something to the cultivator guarding the teleportation array. The cultivator guarding the teleportation formation abruptly turned his head and said, "Close the teleportation formation. From now on, Silver Sword Island will be under martial law. No one is allowed to leave." The cultivator had only just said that when the teleportation formation shone brightly. Perfected Liang Xianfeng and Lu Ping disappeared into the light. In the end, Skyrend was still one step too late. By the time the 2 of them arrived at Heaven Essence City from Golden Sword Island, 3 days had already passed. Long-distance teleportation formations were so troublesome. Not only did each teleportation cost a great deal of spirit stones, there was also a limit to the number of teleportation slots. The cultivators on both sides had to make preparations in advance to prevent people from plotting against them. Along the way, Lu Ping told Perfected Liang Xianfeng about some of the important things that had happened to him over the past few years. Perfected Liang Xianfeng was very impressed. "I didn't think you'd manage your own force in the Fallen Secret region. It's a treasure land. If you manage it well, it'll be a rich foundation for your future cultivation. Unfortunately, we have to return to Jingzhi Island as soon as possible. Otherwise, we could take a look at your Soundwave Manor." Lu Ping asked curiously, "Why are you in such a hurry, Uncle Master? What's wrong with staying on my Tsungling Island for a couple of days?" Perfected Liang Xianfeng said, "I'm afraid it won't work this time. I've already received a decree from Celestial Phenomenon Laozu. I need to return to Jingzhi Island as soon as possible. You and I will rest for a day. Tomorrow, we'll have to cross the Fallen Secret region. Although there won't be much danger along the way, the humans and demons of the East Sea have already started fighting. We need to be careful. This trip will take at least half a month." Lu Ping hesitated and asked, Uncle Master, are you guarding Perfected Plum from the listening villa? Perfected Liang Xianfeng looked at Lu Ping and said, That's right. Then has she entered the Dharma stage? Not yet, but she has passed the most dangerous period. She has merged with a mid-tier heaven spirit item and achieved an 8th-tier golden core. Although there are still a few more hurdles before she can enter the Dharma stage, I believe with her ability, she won't give anyone a chance. Perfected Liang Xianfeng sighed. At the same time, there was a hint of envy in his eyes. He thought for a moment and said, Don't ask too much about her and don't tell anyone else. She has too many conflicts with our sect. It's useless to talk about it now. The next day, just as the two were about to leave Qianyuan City, a piece of news that shook the North Sea spread. The Silver Sword Island had been conquered by the demons. For a moment, the East Sea was in an uproar. The Silver Sword Island was one of the 5 major sects of the East Sea, one of the 3 major bases of Skyrend. The island was guarded by the Dharma Laozu all year round, but it was easily conquered after being surrounded by the demons for 3 days. However, when more detailed information arrived, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This time, the Kun clan had gone crazy. They actually sent 3 Dharma Laozu led by Kong Shang Laozu. In addition to the 3 Dharma Laozu from other clans, a total of 6 Laozu besieged the Silver Sword Island. Although a sword comprehension Laozu from Skyrend and 2 Laozu from the nearby sects came to help, the Silver Sword Island was still outnumbered. After using the island's protective formation to injure the 2 Dharma Laozu, the sword comprehension Laozu from Skyrend was also heavily injured. The Silver Sword Island's protective formation was broken, and the demons launched a large-scale attack on the island. After a fierce battle, both sides suffered heavy losses. The human cultivators had no choice but to retreat, and the Silver Sword Island fell. It was said that more than 30 core forging realm experts from the Silver Sword Island had fallen in this battle, and even more were heavily injured. The remaining blood condensation realm cultivators were also innumerable. Due to the island's protective formation, the demonic cultivators suffered even greater losses. They had lost more than 40 core forging realm experts. However, the gains from conquering the Silver Sword Island were more than enough for the demonic cultivators to recoup their losses. It was said that the Kun clan had launched a large-scale attack on the island because one of Kong Shang Laozu's grandsons had been assassinated by a human cultivator. In a fit of rage, Kong Shang Laozu had gathered so many cultivators to conquer the Silver Sword Island. The humans and demons had been enemies for a long time. Although the death of Kong Shang Laozu's grandson wasn't the main reason, it was still a trigger. In a short period of time, the human cultivator who had assassinated Kong Shang Laozu's grandson became the most famous figure in the East Sea. At this time, the most famous figure in the East Sea was carefully traversing the inner layer of the fallen secret land with Reverend Liang Xianfeng. The inner layer was mostly occupied by the East Sea's large forces, rogue cultivators, independent forces, and even demon cultivators. The cultivators stationed here were at least in the late core forging stage, so it wasn't unusual for Reverend Laozu to appear here. Moreover, the special characteristics of the fallen secret land meant that humans, demons, and humans would always assume the worst of each other. Killing and robbing was normal, but they would never provoke someone they couldn't afford to provoke. Reverend Liang Xianfeng carefully released his late core forging stage aura along the way. He didn't provoke them, nor did he show any signs of weakness, so their journey was smooth. After flying in the fallen mystery land for over 10 days, a mid-sized island with a circumference of over 100 miles finally showed its vague outline in the secret land, which was shrouded in mist all year round. Jingzhi Island was the stronghold that Zhenling had established in the fallen secret land. One of Zhenling's 3 mid-Dharma Laozu cultivators, Celestial Phenomenon Laozu, was stationed here. Before the 2 of them reached Jingzhi Island, they saw 2 cultivators flying towards them. "Is that Brother Xianfeng?" Reverend Liang Xianfeng laughed and said, "Are you Brother Xuanrong and Brother Xiantong?" "I am Xianfeng." When they got closer, Lu Ping finally got a good look at Reverend Xuanrong and Reverend Xiantong. They looked to be in their 40s, but Reverend Xuanrong already had a long beard. "Brother, who is this young friend?" Reverend Xuanrong asked curiously when he saw Lu Ping standing beside Reverend Liang Xianfeng. "Haha, this is Sister Xuanling's disciple. His surname is Lu, and his name is Xianping." Reverend Liang Xianfeng pointed at Lu Ping and introduced him to the two. Lu Ping stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "Disciple Lu Ping greets the two uncle masters." Reverend Xuanrong and Reverend Xiantong looked at each other in shock and hurriedly said, "Martial nephew Xianping, please rise." When Lu Ping stood up straight, Reverend Xuanrong sighed and said, "I heard that Sister Xianling took in a male disciple about 10 years ago. He was only at the 8th level of the blood condensation realm when he went missing during the beast tide. Who would have thought that in just a few years, Martial nephew Lu's cultivation would have reached such a level? It's really amazing." Although Reverend Xuanrong addressed Lu Ping as a martial nephew, his tone showed that he was treating Lu Ping as a peer. Lu Ping smiled. "Back then, martial nephew Xianling was framed by vile people. Luckily, I didn't die and obtained some opportunities in the East Sea. That's how I broke through to the core forging stage." Reverend Xiantong nodded. "We've heard about what happened to you. I heard that Sister Xianling lost her temper and even angered some people. But you came back at the right time." Lu Ping was puzzled. Reverend Liang Xianfeng was surprised. "Could it be?" Reverend Xiantong nodded. "That's right. A few days ago, we received news that Sister Xianling has successfully condensed her Dharma form, becoming our sect's 8th Dharma form, Laozu. The sect will hold a Dharma form assembly for her in a month's time, inviting all the sects in the North Sea to congratulate her. Martial nephew Lu's cultivation has improved greatly, which is great news for Sister Xianling." Lu Ping was overjoyed. "Is that true, Uncle Master?" But then he realized that his words were inappropriate. It was as if he was questioning Reverend Xiantong. Reverend Xiantong didn't mind. He smiled. "Of course. Please return to the island. Brother Xianfeng, you should go and see Uncle Master Tianxiang first. Don't let him wait too long." Chapter 336. Jingzhe Island was one of Zhenling's bases in the perished mystic land. After many years of nurturing, there was now a mid-sized spirit vein on the island. Other than Tianxiang Laozu, Zhenling's 12 core forging enlightened masters were stationed here, and the rest were over 100 blood condensation disciples. This showed how much Zhenling valued this place. Lu Ping followed enlightened master Xianrong to a cave abode to rest, while enlightened master Liang Xianfeng followed enlightened master Xiantong to meet Tianxiang Laozu. On the second day, Lu Ping continued to wash his eyes with the bejeweled water in his cave dwelling. Suddenly, someone came to visit him. Lu Ping walked out of the cave abode and saw two cultivators looking at him. Lu Ping was surprised to see them, but he smiled and said, "Senior Martial Brother Wei Zihen and Senior Martial Brother Su Zipeng, it's been more than 10 years since we last met on Fei Ling Island. Please come in." The two people outside the cave were the two cultivators who led the battle with Lu Ping against the early blood condensation cultivators on Fei Ling Island. In the end, they defeated Xianling's Zhenling. When the two saw Lu Ping, they were stunned and didn't know what to say, but Lu Ping already invited them. Seeing that Lu Ping's attitude towards them didn't change after he advanced to the core forging realm, they heaved a sigh of relief. After the two of them entered the cave abode, Su Zipeng smiled bitterly and said, "During the trip to Fei Ling Island, Junior Martial Brother was the strongest among us. After that, all of us advanced to the mid-blood condensation realm and became disciples of our respective masters. Then, we were sent to the perished mystic realm to train ourselves. I thought we would be one of the strongest cultivators in the same realm as us, but after seeing you today, Junior Martial Brother, I feel ashamed." Wei Zihen also said, "Previously, I heard from Martial Uncle Xiantong that there was another core forging disciple named Lu Xianping under the Heavenly Spirit Ancestor. We were still a little suspicious, but now that we have seen the real person, we no longer have any doubts. It's just that Junior Brother's advancement in cultivation is too strange, and we no longer have any desire to compete. When Lu Ping heard the two of them talking about him, he smiled and said, Senior brothers, you must be joking. My cultivation advancement was only a result of luck and not my own hard work. I was influenced by many external forces, and I'm afraid that I'll have to spend a lot of time polishing myself in the future. On the other hand, senior brothers, you've already reached the peak of the blood condensation realm, and your foundations are solid. I believe that you'll be able to advance to the core forging realm soon. Hearing Lu Ping's praise, Su Ziping laughed heartily and said, Thank you, Junior Martial Brother. Speaking of which, the two of us came to visit Junior Martial Brother not only to visit an old friend, but also because we have something to ask of you. Lu Ping knew that there must be a reason for their visit, so he said, Senior brothers, please speak. As long as I can do it, I won't refuse. Wei Zihen smiled and said, With Junior Brother's words, we can rest assured. We know that Junior Brother was already an alchemist when you were still in the blood condensation realm. In the past, you were famous in our sect for refining the half-step forging face-retaining pill. Now that Junior Brother has advanced to the core forging realm, your alchemy skills must have improved greatly, so we would like to ask Junior Brother to refine a pill for us. When Su Ziping saw Lu Ping's confusion, he said, It's a type of medicinal pellet that can help one break through to the core forging stage. It's called the Thought Melting Pellet. We've already prepared the recipe for this pellet as well as the required spirit herbs. We only need to trouble Junior Martial Brother to refine it. According to our sect's rules, Junior Martial Brother can have 1/3 of the refined pellet. Lu Ping used his divine sense to check the thought pill recipe. He discovered that the effect of this pill was similar to the thought enchantment pill. It was slightly inferior to the 7-step marked pill, but it was still considered one of the best pills that could help in breaking through to the core forging realm. Lu Ping smiled and said, Don't worry, I'll leave the spiritual herbs here. I'll be staying on Jingzhi Island for a few days. Senior brothers can come pick up the pill the day after tomorrow. When the two heard this, they were overjoyed. After exchanging greetings for a while, they left. With Lu Ping's current alchemy skills, refining these half-step core forging realm pills could easily reach more than 70% success rate. The two of them prepared 2 sets of spiritual herbs for refining the thought pill, and the rest was for Lu Ping himself. This was the rule of the alchemy world. If Lu Ping declined modestly, it would cause trouble. Not to mention, once Liang Xianfeng testified, the news of him becoming an alchemy master would probably be known by other cultivators on the island. At that time, the ones who would trouble him would be his martial uncles in the core forging realm. Lu Ping only spent a day to concoct the sense-dissolving pellets. With his current alchemy skills and the help of the Na Chuan cauldron and the blue spirit fire, he managed to produce a total of 15 sense-dissolving pellets from the 2 cauldrons. Lu Ping kept 5 of them and gave the remaining 10 to the duo. However, after the thought pill was refined, the Zhenling cultivators on Jingzhi Island, especially the core forging realm masters, seemed to have received some news. Several people came to Lu Ping one after another, offering the pill recipe and spiritual herbs, hoping to refine some medicinal pills. However, these medicinal pills were already at the core forging realm. Lu Ping had a limited return date, so he only took a few furnaces of spiritual herbs to refine early-stage core forging realm medicinal pills. With his current alchemy skills, if he refined early-stage core forging realm medicinal pills, he could reach 50 to 60% success rate. If he refined middle-stage medicinal pills, his success rate would only be 30 to 40%. Of course, it was impossible for Lu Ping to refine these medicinal pills. He had not tried the late-stage core forging realm medicinal pills, but he had at least refined 2 medicinal pills for the half-step transcendence realm. One was the Bell Cauldron pill, and the other was the Forging Heart pill. It was just that the cost of refining these 2 medicinal pills was too high, and there was also an element of luck involved. After spending a few more days, Lu Ping finished refining the medicinal pills for the uncle masters. Due to the scarcity of spiritual herbs, it was not uncommon for middle-stage core forging realm cultivators to use early-stage core forging realm medicinal pills to cultivate. In addition, the Jinling cultivators on Jingzhi Island were isolated overseas, so the cultivation supplies they had were even more scarce. Although Jingzhi Island was rich in resources, there was no alchemy master here. Everyone could not cook without rice. It was not easy to meet Lu Ping, so they naturally would not let him go easily. A day before Lu Ping returned to the North Sea, Liang Xianfeng came to Lu Ping's cave residence and said, "Uncle Master Tianxiang wants to see you." Lu Ping was stunned when he heard this, but he quickly got up and followed Liang Xianfeng to the cave residence in the center of Jingzhi Island. Other than Hongye Laozu from the Northern Alliance, this was the second Dharma Laozu that Lu Ping had seen, and he was one of the 3 mid-Dharma Laozu in Jinling. His expression was solemn. When Lu Ping saw Tianxiang Laozu, he was not in the cave residence, but in a spiritual herb garden. Tianxiang Laozu was dressed in an ordinary farmer's robe and wore a bamboo hat. He looked like an old farmer, tending to the plants in the spiritual herb garden. Seeing Lu Ping and Liang Xianfeng arrive, the old farmer patted the soil off his hands, then straightened up and said, "You're here? Come and have a cup of tea." Lu Ping bowed respectfully and said, "Greetings, Uncle Master." Tianxiang Laozu walked to a pavilion and waved for the two to come over. He looked at Lu Ping and said, "That last Xianling has taken in a good disciple." Tianxiang Laozu sat down, and only then did Liang Xianfeng and Lu Ping sit down. Tianxiang Laozu smiled and said, "Back then, we thought that we could teach disciples like Tianlin, Xianling, and we were already very happy." We were also very happy that your Uncle Master Xianfeng could achieve what he has today. However, we did not expect that in your generation, your achievements would even surpass your teachers and Uncle Masters. It seems that Jinling has a bright future. Lu Ping listened quietly on the side and didn't answer. Enlightened Master Liang Xianfeng smiled and said, "Isn't this all because of the hard work of the uncles and martial uncles? We're just inheriting the legacy of the seniors." Tianxiang Laozu did not comment and continued, "Now that the humans and demons are at war, I'm afraid that the Central Plains will not be peaceful anymore. If Jinling wants to take this opportunity to rise, it will be very difficult. The resistance of the demon race, the resistance of the human race, and even the internal conflicts of our sect. There are many things to worry about. If we want to break through these difficulties, we still have a long way to go." This time, even perfected Liang Xianfeng was silent. Tianxiang Laozu continued, "It's fine if it's external resistance, we just need to unite against a common enemy. But the problem is that there are some things that we need to resolve, some things that we need to be flexible, and some things that we need to rely on others. In any case, I, junior sister Tian Shui, and junior brother Tian Fan mean that no matter what happened between the two of you in the past, in the face of a great enemy, the safety of the sect is the highest priority. You can think of ways to resolve your own problems, and if you can't put down your pride, you can settle it through the juniors. You can be at loggerheads, but you must not fight amongst yourselves." Tianxiang Laozu's words were not fierce, but every word seemed to have magical powers, directly nailing into Lu Ping's heart. As if waiting for the two of them to digest what he had said, Tianxiang Laozu raised his teacup and took a sip, then said, "In a few years I will be going through my second trial. If I pass it, I won't need Tian Shui and Tian Fen to work together to fight against that old man Dao Xing. If I can't pass it, I believe that with Tianlin and Xianling advancing to the Dharma stage, Xianling's sect will not dare to make things difficult for me, Jinling. Moreover, Xianfeng, when that time comes, you will also be at the Dharma stage. With the help of the spirit forging pill, I believe that Xuanqing and Xuanchan's achievements will not be any weaker than yours. It's just a pity for Xianin. If not for what happened back then, his cultivation would still be above yours." Lu Ping was shocked. Today, he had unintentionally learned many secrets of the sect. It seemed that Tian Xiang Laozu's cultivation had already reached the peak of the mid-Dharma stage. If he wanted to advance to the late Dharma stage and become the top existence in the world of cultivation, it seemed that he still had to go through a life-and-death ordeal. Coming out from the spiritual herb garden, Liang Xianfeng walked in silence, as if he had a lot of things on his mind. Lu Ping was also full of doubts, but he did not know how to ask. From Tianxiang Laozu's words, it was not hard to tell that the sect was not as united as a piece of iron. However, this was not a big deal. A large sect with tens of thousands of people, how could everyone be united? As long as the high-level cultivators had a sense of the big picture and did not fall apart, the sect would not collapse on its own. Lu Ping knew that these words were definitely meant for Liang Xuanfeng's generation. This time, Liang Xianfeng had also followed Lu Ping back to Tianling Mountain. Lu Ping guessed that Liang Xuanfeng's return this time was probably to make the final preparations to advance to the Dharma stage. In recent years, Liang Xianfeng had already begun to fuse the Tianfeng leaves into his golden elixir, and it was now time to see if he could form a golden elixir that was above the 7th grade. However, Lu Ping did not know if Tianxiang Laozu's words were also slightly related to him, but Lu Ping was more willing to believe that Tianxiang Laozu said these words for him to try his best to resolve the enmity of the previous generation, because at least when Lu Ping returned this time, he would at least have his revenge. Ling Qian was fine, after all, Master had not expelled her from the sect, and Lu Ping had to consider Master's feelings. If Master found evidence of Yuan Zhan framing him, Lu Ping would really dare to annihilate the Yuan family. The next day, under the sending off of several core forging stage perfected masters, Wei Zihen, Su Ziping, and the others on the island, the long-distance teleportation array on Jingzhi Island slowly opened. Lu Ping and Liang Xianfeng were gradually drowned in the dazzling light. When Lu Ping reappeared, he had reappeared in the North Sea that he had been away from for several years. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.